Hi everyone, and welcome to Nollywood Film Club podcast. I haven't said podcast for a while. I'm Mr. C, a Veroca critic. I hope you're doing well. Well, let me not. You have a long podcast to get to. I won't waste too much of your time. Pushback section is back. This is a weird one because I think this is one of those ones where it seems if you look at the timestamps below, it might seem like the it's skewed one side, but I think people's summaries differ from don't quite match up with the weighting of the timing of the sections. That's all I'm gonna say. I just hope you enjoy Nollywood Film Club discussing Afamefuna.
Let me do the intro. What's the intro? Hi, everyone. Welcome to Nollywood Film Club. We discuss Nollywood films and Nollywood topics every week, 6 p.m. every Sunday. Today, we shall be discussing Afamefuna, long awaited. We shall be doing the good, the bad. I'll have a pushback section, unlike last time, and then we will do our summaries. So I hope you all enjoyed having a short space last week. I don't think it will be repeating itself. All that kumbaya, and I agree, death to it. Let's go. First up, we have Otaz. Kick us off. Tell us
I
what you
actually I want to go second.
You
Sorry
want
for
to
the
go
section. My daughter is asking,
second?
my
Oh,
daughter is asking me some questions, so I'll go right after the next speaker.
she's more important, to be honest. Fair. All right. So I don't know. We're supposed to have Vanessa next, but I think Elon hates her today. So I don't know, Vanessa. Keep trying. Cynthia, you go. What did you like about Afamefuna?
Um, yeah, sorry. Um, why am I saying a lot of I'm just in a disorganized state. Am I echoing? Because I'm sitting on the chair. Am I echoing? No.
You sound fine. The acoustics are
Okay,
amazing.
fine. Okay, so what I like about Afemefuna, so I mean, I don't mind if anybody review time I like or disagree with it. Because I had to think hard, but I think I liked the young Afam. Um, I thought it was very naive. I kind of believe it was learning the trade for the first time, although it looked wealthy. But yeah, I kind of like the young Afam, the guy that played the young Afam. Then I've been seeing a lot of people happy for Stan Nze, and who am I? Who am I to not join the crowd? I'm also happy that Stan Nze had a lead role in this, and that's what I can say about his lead role. I also like the girl that played Amaka. So it's not like I thought her acting was fantabulous or fantastic or amazing. I liked how very unserious this girl was. Like very, very unserious. Especially when she cried and her face turns red. And then you ask her, what is going on? And she gives you this answer that you're like, you better go and sit down there. So we're talking about things like the private university. She's crying and she's like, oh, my father found out and is going to not send me to a private university. And even when they even told her, or when Afamefuna told her about the son not being hers, the way she gave the okay crying and everything. I just like that. She was really, really unserious, especially how her face turns red. And then you realize that this is not even a
Cynthia,
big
you're
deal.
sure this is the good, yeah?
What?
You're sure this is a good? Just checking.
Yes,
I
the
was about
good.
to
No,
say,
she
oh,
made me. She made me really, really laugh. No. She actually brought laughter to me. She brought laughter to me. It's a good though. It's a serious good. It's a very, very serious good because she brought laughter to me. I really loved how serious she was. Um. Also, I think I liked the Odogo and Sons shop because there were some things that were just a bit nostalgia to me. I'm talking about the market calculator, the ledger. What's that thing that I used to put under the page of a ledger when you're writing the invoice? Everything just brought nostalgia, and I was just thinking about my mom's shop when I was growing up, how we had this ledger and everything. And even when I saw the Virony Ties cartoon, it was also a bit nostalgia to me because I've been to construction sites a lot when I was growing up, and I know Virony Ties was quite popular. So yeah, I think I really, really liked your Dogo and Sons shop setup and those things that reminded me of my mom's shop, and also seeing Virony Ties. I mean, I don't think I've ever encountered Virony Ties cartoon yet in Canada, but seeing that was also good. Then just a final like, I think I liked the idea of writing a movie about the apprenticeship system. I like the idea of writing such kind of movie. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, Vanessa,
It's my
give
Hi
it a
turn.
go.
guys.
Just
I
say
don't know
give
what
me
happened.
seconds. And then
Oh, hold on
one,
one
two,
second there.
Sorry,
two,
Otas.
three.
Sorry, Mona Novex, Otas. Otas, take it away. Tell us.
He would never do. Actually, he would, but that's not the point. He would. Um, in general, I like this film. Uh, Probably one of my favorites this year, possibly even in the last like 12 months. But I thought I liked a lot of it. I thought it was a beautiful story that they were telling and also tried to tell in some parts. I loved a lot of the character development, especially for the younger characters, because I really enjoyed the first half of the movie there and seeing the brotherhood develop. I thought there was like a cute like camaraderie I hate that word, cute friendship anyways. And the scene there where they use sort of like a montagey way to show their friendship developing was cute. Usually we save that for rom-coms, but I like seeing that, first he's Johnny and then sort of transforming into Afam, the seller. I enjoyed some of the acting scenes. Surprisingly, one of my favorite ones is from Alex Akubo, which has never happened in this life. But it's the scene where he comforts Afam right after he's rewarded first. And it just was it wasn't overdone. There wasn't a lot of yelling. And I enjoyed sort of the power in that performance. Um, I liked overall the acting of the younger characters, maybe a little more than older ones. But overall, I thought the acting in the movie as a whole was good. Um, One of my other scenes that I liked is I liked a lot of the silent communication in this, actually. And I think there's a good number to choose from. But my favorite one is the ride back from, I think it's called a wharf, wherever his goods were being held, where KOK is just like smiling. And I think it was very clear from that scene that he was very much in love with Afam's character. But yeah, overall, solid movie. Not a lot of bad notes, but there will be some.
All right, thank you, Otas. I think a few people will agree with you on it being their favorite for Q1. Vanessa, do you want to tell us what you liked about Afamefuna?
Yes, hopefully Elon is allowing me to speak and you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear
Okay,
you.
fantastic. Yeah, I agree. Q1 has been tragic. Um, in on many occasions, I skipped film club due to extenuating circumstances, but also because I did not want to watch the films. Um, so yeah, this felt like a breath of fresh air for the end of Q1. It was genuinely a woosa. I watched it off of the back of a really nice day of drinking. And so I was calm and it was an easy watch. So that's my number one good. This was an easy watch. I liked quite a few bits of the acting as well. Younger Polo, I quite enjoyed. Again, I'm a huge KOK stan. This wasn't like the most spectacular performance known to man, but it was a very solid performance for what it was and what it was meant to be. and I quite enjoyed KOK in this. The little smiles here and there. There was I don't know if it was a montage, but it was that scene, and I think maybe it was a bit of foreshadowing, but it was that scene where he was watching both Polo and Afam in the store, carry on business, right? And you could just see the smile on his face, like, okay, training is working here for some of them in different respects. And I quite enjoyed that. Another performance I enjoyed. I agree. I think Alex Ikubo did really well in that confrontation scene. The slow take your hand off me and him actually physically lifting Afam's hand off of his shoulder and declaring that they were not brothers was a solid performance. It wasn't spectacular, but it was a solid performance. I think there were a lot of solid performances in this. Another one I really liked, Sumi, I'm a romance girly. Wow. I think it was the scene where they came to do I don't know if it was introduction or marriage or whatever it was in KOK's palo. I don't know. My thing about romances in Nollywood, yeah, it almost feels like you can't feel the emotions. I miss when a romance hero put on his face how he felt about the person, right? And for me, as much as the second half of this film is probably not my favorite, but from the moment he saw her outside the store and the first instinct he had was to softly grab her face, I was like, yeah, I don't care if this feels rushed or whatever. This is love, this is romance. And when in the living room, when she came out and, you know, he immediately sat up, right? When she walked into the room, I was like, yeah, that's love. And then when they were asking her questions, this wasn't, I don't care about her acting yet, but the look in his eyes when she said yes, and the way my thing, I'm a sucker for romances, right? I love when a man's eyes follow the woman that he's with, right? Doesn't care who is there looking at him, follow her, which is why KOK was like, yeah, you've always liked my daughter, because his eyes always moved where this girl moved. And even as adults, like, I really appreciated that his eyes just always trailed her in every single bit of the room that they were in. It was so tender, right? And I appreciate tender eyes. Sumi, I like romance. This wasn't a romance, but I liked the bits of the romance in this. What else did I like? Um, yeah, I guess. Okay, yes, I'm not Igbo, but I do appreciate the way. It's probably one of my favorite things about Staninze. I quite enjoy the way Staninze speaks Igbo. There's something about it that just feels melodic to my ears. He probably was one of the better Igbo speaking people in the film. When him and Alex Ekubo are in a scene, the Igbo doesn't feel stilted. So I really appreciated Staninze speaking Igbo. It's really nice to hear his voice. And yes, Cynthia, some of us are happy for him because this man has come from the gutter. Yes, my time is up. Sorry, guys.
All right, thank you. It's clear it's romance they will use to catch you.
Why, yes.
Okay. All right, thanks, Vanessa. Who have I got next? Sorry, I've lost my I've lost the queue. Sorry, may nobody vex. Olana, let's go. What did you like about Afamefuna?
Okay, good evening, guys. Happy Easter. What did I like? I really enjoyed this movie in general. I've watched it 3 times. I watched it in the cinema and I watched it twice when it came out on Netflix. I will watch it more because I really enjoyed the movie. I liked, first of all, the acting. It felt very easy. Like nobody was doing too much. Nobody was exaggerating anything. I liked that they didn't, like, they told the apprentice story and the Igbo story without leaning too much into certain stereotypes. Like, I like that there was no exaggerated Igbo accents. I like that there was no overly dressed boss or anything. I like KOK's character being a very fatherly figure. He wasn't harsh to his boys. He treated them with fairness and equity. I liked that too. I really, really enjoyed Alex Ekubo's performance. Like, I said, it shocked me because usually he's more of a playful playboy kind of character. A lot of times he doesn't have this intensity. So when I saw him being a bad guy, and he wasn't a boisterous loud guy. He wasn't an obnoxious type of loud guy. He was very tame but very menacing. Like you could feel the bad energy oozing off of him. So I like that he did that. I also like the casting for the Polo, the younger and older Polo, because I felt like Alex Ekubo and Chidera David, who plays the younger Polo, had something of like similarity with their mannerisms to some extent. Their general carriage felt very similar. So I liked that casting. I enjoyed the romance with Stanley and Bridget, Atlanta Bridget. Like the last speaker said, big on romance, very, very big on romance. And Stan Nze was so like he was very emotive in this movie. There were a lot of things said without things being said. I like that he didn't have to use a lot of words to tell us that he loved this girl. He was very expressive with his eyes, with his body movements. The scene with the introduction day, when he immediately sat up when she came out, it was very, very tender, very warm. So the love thing was really, I was like, yeah, this is how you guys do romance without flinging it in our faces. I also like that this movie explored many themes at the same time. Like it wasn't just about the one boy thing. We looked at betrayal, we looked at brotherhood, we looked at paternity fraud, we looked at the whole, is it a good time to move on from another partner? So it's brought up a lot of different discussions, and it's been a while since we saw a movie that brought up any discussions, how much more as many as this movie has brought up. So yeah, this was my best product, my best movie from Kayode Kasum. Like yeah, another thing I liked was that the dialogue felt natural. Like they were switching from Igbo to English at the right time. It wasn't, they spoke the way you would normally see a lot of Igbo people just speaking, just switching up with the English and the Igbo. So yeah, those were the major things I liked.
All right. Thanks, Alana. I imagine a number of people will be agreeing with you on some of those points as well. Let's go to. Oh, did I lose him? I lost Chinwike. Okay. Uchenna. Oh, actually, I think Ebere was before Uchenna. Ebere, do you want to tell us what you liked about Afamefuna?
Yes. Yes, this is my first film club of the year, so I'm actually excited. But first off, I like the use of like young actors and not necessarily popular faces. I think Obum was the only face that I've seen elsewhere in like previous productions. I don't know if that's me, but I like the use of young actors that acted well and really carried the first part of the movie, even though they were not like popular faces and it was just kind of. I really like that. I like the fact that they try to stick to the plot. Not a lot of Nollywood movies have tried to do that. Like they try to stick to the whole. They try to keep it together. I don't know if they did it successfully, but they tried to keep it together. The acting was good. I think everyone has said that. This is like the first. This is like my favorite Alex Ekubo role. Alex Ekubo role. I liked KOK. I like the fact that they tried to show him in another light. Really, really like that. I like Chego Arinze's role. Yeah, back to like keeping to plot. I like that there was a conclusion. It didn't seem all over the place. I'm not a huge fan of the story, but they tried to tie it together. I also like the use of language. People that speak Igbo every day might not necessarily agree with how Igbo was used, or the fact that maybe that's not how people speak Igbo every day. But then I like the use of language, especially to with Segun Arinze, that they established the fact that he understood Igbo, he spoke Hausa, so it wasn't a problem when Stanze was speaking Igbo to him in the interrogation room. So I like that they established some things. I like that also they didn't do a lot of talking, but the acting, they left some things unsaid, but it was still established. At least they could establish the fact that KOK had this tiny bit of favoritism to Afamefuna even before he did the whole settlement thing. The likeness and the romance bit, when like Polo being sort of dubious, even him just like when he spoke to like Officer Danladi, like when he left at the same time when he left. So those little things sort of made it not look like all over the place. Like when they did certain things or when they decided to take the story in a certain direction. So I liked that. Yeah, and it looked good too. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Chinweke, let's go with you. What did you like about Afamefuna?
Hey everyone. Happy Easter. It's very interesting. Did all of these people come on this space before me? That's quite a rush. Okay. Let me start with the things I liked. First of all, this is a visually stunning film. Like, it looked good. Like, it looked really, really good. And like, I'm not just talking about the people, but the set design, the costumes, the locations, the everything visual about it. It looked magnificent. It looked gorgeous. Like, you could just off of the visuals alone, this is a fantastic film. And the sheer scale of it, the amount of effort and work put into produce something like this, you just, if nothing, you have to just respect it. Um, yeah, so there's that. I liked a lot has been said, but let me try to say things that haven't been said before. I like the flex of Shegun Arinze, the old Nollywood flex where he just like casually spoke three languages, and I'm like, okay, okay, I see you, sir. Like, that was a really nice flex to see. I like the subject matter. I think it's a very important film. I like the subject matter that they tackled on. It's sort of like a documentary, so I really like that. And I mean, it's representation and PR for Igbo people, so I'm always going to give that a plus in my books. I love the portrayal of Igbo culture. It also seems to have a very nice reception amongst non-Igbo people, so that's a huge plus in my book. This has been said before, but I feel like I need to mention it as well. The person that played the young Paul, I think Chidera David is his name according to the credits, because I've not seen him in anything before, and I would like to see him in more things. That was a really notable performance. Um, Also, you could tell that this film was made from a place of love and reverence. So I really like that. Like, you can feel that it translated onto the screen. So I really like that about the film. And yeah, I think yeah, that's it. Like, I have to just mention the visuals again. Like, this was a visually stunning film. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chinweke. Elizabeth, please go. Tell us what you liked about Afamefuna.
Thank you for the call. Okay, so first, I've only watched like I think 80 to 90 minutes of this film. So that's what all of my um likes and dislikes will be based on. So I've not completed it. No fault of anybody's, just mine, being busy. It's Easter. So what do I like first? First, I know that Mr. C likes to say that division, I see the point is not a like, but it is a like for me. I really like the idea of the movie. The entire thing was based upon the old my boy story. I like the idea of it. I do not speak a lick of Igbo, but I love the cultural aspect. I enjoyed it because I watch a lot of other movies from different cultures, and I like to take one thing away. I like to pretend that I'm a connoisseur of their culture after watching their films. So I like the way the Igbo was front and centered in this entire story. Now come to maybe acting. Yeah, acting of the younger people. I like the young Paul. I like this acting more than any others. I don't think it was exactly like spectacular in some places, but I felt like it was the only one to me that seemed to have like an easier flow of things and maybe not exaggerating his acting. Then for the older people too, Stan will always represent. I think when I was watching this thing, the first thing that came to my head was seeing Stan in This Is It. And I'm like, he's come a very long way. So I really like seeing Stan. But I really like Alex Ekubo's character and characterization. Let me use that word. For now, as of now, as that where I've ended, like I've stopped watching, is the only one whose characterization from then to now has seemed more than one dimensional, right? Paul's character is not all too good and all too bad. It's just very human. It's just some guy with, being street smart in comparison to like Afam's characterization up to where I've watched. Seems too linear. So I appreciate that characterization and I appreciate Alexei Kubo's representation of it. Not so much to go on for now. Then, of course, KOK. KOK is always KOK. Excellent acting. The other guys, check my reason sometimes since they want to convince me, but we'll put it there. But overall, I really like. Another thing, I like the texture of the film. We'll get to that later, but that's all I like for now. Thank you.
All right. Okay. My voice got deeper over time. I'm still Mr. C. But thanks for that, Mo.
Why?
All right. So obviously we've lost track of people. So bear with us. I will go with Inko, my fave. Inko, please tell
It's
us
kind of
what you
strange
liked
that
about
Mr.
the
C was the one that actually called me and Mr. C forgot.
That's where the love lies, truly.
Excuse me, I don't
Please tell
forget
us.
everything you've done for me, please. I actually have a memory of a human being instead of a goldfish.
Time is running out.
Sorry. So to quickly go through the likes, I like the idea that the story, what the story was made from the Igbo apprenticeship system. I like that they put it onto screen. That's wonderful. It's within our culture, and it's a story that we can probably tell. I also like that there's blocking in this. Like you can clearly tell that it definitely thought about it. There are things going on in the background that make sense with the story, except for one little tiny scene. But that scene is funny, but it's still wonderful. The art direction, love it. Art director, good job. Clear that the cinematography has a cohesive, planned out look, which makes it more of a cinematography. So good job. I'm talking about all the technicalities right now. Story wise, I like that it did, like the other person said, it does follow a story, and the story stays within what it is mostly, which is good. There's a beginning, there's a end, there's a middle, whatever. We have a setup. We follow the setup to give us a story. Acting is really good. I do want to call out Stan. Everybody has already called out other people that wanted to talk about. But I kind of want to call out Stan is what's his Shegun Arize. Shegun Arize. I kind of like the way Shegun Arize.
Sorry.
What?
Okay.
I'm not talking about Stan Eze.
Stan. Okay. All right, go on. Sorry.
Everybody already said that. I don't kind of want to report. I wanted to because nobody really mentioned Shegun except for Elizabeth. Shegun Arize, I did think that he tried with the accents and everything, and like he just want to give a film. Also want to call out the casting of the beautiful girl. She's perfectly casted for her being beautiful and like you can understand. Now, is there other things to be said? Sure, but this is the like sections. She is very beautiful. The camera, she is very beautiful. So those are the things I liked. Alex Okubo. When I first saw this guy on the screen, first movie I ever watched years ago, I thought this guy could not act and he should get out of my screen. But later on, this guy really improved and like he became one of my favorites, especially in the kind of roles that he knows how to perform. And he's really challenging himself. And this is really cool. It's cool to see growth. Which is to say, people, let's be kind to actors. Let's not go crazy in the description of how bad they are, okay? I'm saying that because I know we're going to talk about a certain actress in this movie. So please be kind. In the bad section. Maybe I'm also talking to myself because let's not get to the bad section. Yeah, these are all the good things about the movie. It is directed. It has a plan. You can see it. It is nice. It is good. It's not a bad movie. It actually brings up questions. You can leave. It talks on things, and you can actually have opinion about these movies. So thank you. It wasn't a waste of time.
All right. Thanks, Anyiko. High praise. Not a waste of time. Put it on your DVD cover.
Excuse me, don't make it sound like I'm saying what I'm talking about is the fact that you've chosen movies that were a waste of time. It's not about this movie. Excuse me. Please don't make it sound like I'm insulting the movie. The shade is not to the movie.
I'm doing the shade. Don't worry, it's not you. All right. Uchenna, do you want to tell us some of the things you liked about Afamefuna?
Yeah, definitely. Not that it matters, but I'm pretty certain I was like the third or fourth person to join the group today. But like I said, it doesn't matter. I really enjoyed watching this movie. It had there's a feeling to it. There's a warmth to the movie, and I know we tend to overuse the word intentionality, but it really felt like they really had something they were trying to say, which is not something that I find with a lot of the Nollywood movies that we find on the streamers these days. I remember a review somebody made about Big Love some time ago. I don't know if it was somebody in this group who said that Bjorn Stevens makes movies that feel like hugs, that hug you, and I felt like that kind of had this quality um, to it. So I mean, I sort of enjoyed being in that world for the time that I watched the movie, and it was interesting also seeing Igbo culture, especially Igbo business culture, being portrayed with dignity, because it's become something of a trope in Nollywood over the past couple of years that wherever they show an Igbo character, well, no, there are plenty of Igbo characters in Nollywood, obviously, but wherever they show a character where their Igbo-ness is the defining characteristic of the character, especially if they're a businessman, they're usually portrayed as a very crude caricature. So it was interesting seeing that world portrayed with a sense of balance, respect, and dignity. I also liked the performances from the two leading men. Stan Nze, I think it's really hard for me to think about a current male Nollywood actor that I like more than Stan Nze, really. Because he has that, physically and visually, he exudes this very rugged masculinity, but there's a certain vulnerability and tenderness to his performance that, I find extremely appealing. And he delivered that in here as well. Alex Okubo is not an actor that I usually like, and he often, portrays those crude Igbo stereotypes I've talked about before, such as in movies like The Bling Lagosians and the recent Rush Hour. But over here, I think he acquitted himself quite well, and he brought a kind of complexities to the character that I didn't expect. Shegun Orinze was interesting too. Like, I mean, he's just typecast playing detectives, but he did pretty well with the little that he was given, so that was nice as well. Um, Another thing I kind of liked is that it reminded me of one of the precursors to Nollywood were the Onitsha pamphlets, which were, basically like Nollywood type stories that were published in these cheaply printed pamphlets that came from Iweka Road from the 1940s until the 1970s, I guess. And some authors like Cyprian Quincy came out of that scene, and this sort of reminds me of that sort of earlier Cyprian Quincy sort of story that would be, some of them were quite instructional, and they were meant to instruct the reader through the through the meta narrative of a master instructing a student. And KOK felt like he was giving messages to the readers, sorry, to the viewer. And I'm not gonna. I'll talk later about whether I felt that was effective cinematically, but I thought it was an interesting literary illusion, even though I seriously doubt that it was done deliberately. But still, it was interesting and very fitting for the milieu that is being depicted here. So, yeah, I guess that's about all.
Okay. Thanks, Uchenna. Who is left?
Nollywood must change.
Nollywood must change. Why you laughed? All right, go ahead.
Mr. C, you'll be last, not me. Can you hear me clearly? Because
Yes.
I'm using a headphone. Okay. Um, what I like about Afamefuna, something I would like to say is that I think the Igbo language is sexy. I find it a sexy language, especially when they are not doing their caricature um, pronunciation or let me say accent. So the language I find very sexy. I really like it. Even though I don't understand anything they're saying, but anytime someone speaks Igbo, I find it very lovely. So then this movie has a cast of good-looking people. Like almost everyone in the movie is good-looking. For me, they were just visually appealing, and I was kind of worried that the older what's her name, the lady. I was kind of worried she might not be able to act because we have issues of casting light-skinned actresses who cannot perform in Hollywood. So I was kind of worried, but I think I like her. She was not bad. She was okay for that role, being a rich girl, sports girl, kind of. And even when she was crying, I was like, "Oh, this is good." That was very good. I like the way she cried, and it was not cringy. Um, what is that like? The performances. I didn't see any bad performance in this, except the wife of Kana. So I didn't see any bad performance in this movie. Kind of the youngest actors, they were okay, and I wish they had nominated the younger Lester Cooper's character, Paulo. I think if he could have been nominated, he's the only one who was nomination for a supporting role in that movie. Actually, yeah, for me. So I kind of like the performances, not bad. I like the costume at the parties actually. I like the costuming at the parties, so it was a good representation of the Igbo tradition. What else do I like? I like the way they depicted the way traders act, Igbo traders. The way they talk to customers, the way they try to make sure the customer buy something, or the way they will say, "Oh, sorry, hear me? Hello, can you hear me?"
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
sorry,
we
a call
can.
came in and I
I'm
had to
so,
stop it.
of course,
So,
Nollywood Film Club first.
okay. Okay, I just those are the things I like. Let me sorry, I have to answer this call. Sorry. Yeah, those are the things I like.
Okay, all right. Apologies. It seemed you also fell into it well. I hope you get well soon. All right. Okay, so I think that's about everybody's one. Mrs. C, do you want to say some of the things you liked? Actually, sorry. Before Mrs. C, sorry for tutoring you there. There are some people who have put some comments about what they liked. Another Vanessa says, all in all, great movie, solid acting, easy dialogue, very simple with no excessive bells and whistle. My tongue technology says I really, really liked the movie. The characters felt familiar. The acting was mwah. The actress that played Amaka is so pretty too. Okay. Yeah. If oh yeah, okay, all right, yes. All right, so this is Corey from the Nollywood Ramblers. Please check their podcast out. Her likes are, I love the cast. I love the cast minus the chick that played Afam's wife. She was quite bland to me. Oh, okay, sneaking in, little sneak. I love the grade on it and how the art direction was done. I appreciate Shogun Arinze's Hausa. It was a pleasant surprise, but he can't pass for a northerner because I didn't know what the accent was when he spoke English. I really liked the story overall. Okay. So, Mr. C,
Okay. For me, for the most, I say for the most part, I liked the premise. I liked the premise. I think I could have spent quite a bit of time just watching Afam go through his transformation from being a JJC into being a proper Nwa boy. I thought the person who played young Afam, I did really enjoy him when he started actually speaking and acting like a Nwa boy. I thought I really enjoyed his performance there. I thought the character of young Polo was an interesting character to follow at the start. I thought, that whole sequence of him taking Afam to the warehouse to pick up the tiles, right? Where he's pointing out this is this guy, this is this person, having his own little thing with those big muscly thugs. It was a nice introduction to kind of that world and how to navigate it, but also giving us this kind of suave character who's, a little fast on his feet. He knows how to work everybody. And I thought that was a fun characterization for young Polo. I really enjoyed KOK. I thought he was really selling this Oga, guy. I thought he did. His mannerisms seemed quite right for somebody who is wealthy, but came into it, but is still overall kind of a decent person. I kind of enjoyed that he was almost always eating. He was eating so often, and there was something that felt a little human, a little familiar. That guy. There was just something about that which I really enjoyed. I think Stan Nze was very comfortable in this role. I think they've been putting him in things that haven't been comfortable for him in recent times, and that was really I wasn't very happy with his recent performances, but this one I was happy with. I think he was very comfortable in this. I think this is really where he shines. What else did I like about Afamefuna? I liked the little friendship montage for them. Do I wish we spent more time in their relationship? Yes, but I did like the little montage of how they became friends. I liked seeing Shegun Arinze. I don't know if it's just my nostalgia thing. It's nice to see the vets back. What else did I like? I'm going to echo everyone in this is the best thing that Q1 had to offer us. That was. I enjoyed the premise. I enjoyed quite a bit of the acting, and it's the best Alex Akubo has been in God knows how long.
Okay, all right. Just one more that has come through. Rookie says, I love the characters, especially Polo's character from Bean Street and businessman to a full villain. I think that's about all the comments. If you do want it read out, sorry, the house is full, although I think we've lost Olana. And anyway. Yeah. All right. Okay. Let me see. All right. I'll just say, wow. All right. Just only on the case that I think we've lost Alana for some time. Adad, do you want to tell us some of the things you liked about Afamefuna?
I thought I wasn't a speaker, but yeah, sure, I can mention some things. Yeah, a lot of the things that people have said, so I'm really not gonna reiterate what people have already said. But I did like the documentation of the apprenticeship. We don't have, I feel like, a lot of I guess documentation of culture as much. And yeah, I like that was something that was prominent in the movie. Nice to have that the Igbo language spoken as well. Again, we don't have it as much. And yeah, I'm not going to repeat everything else because I agree with what people have said. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let me see what I have for the things I liked. Not going to repeat too much, but KOK was a highlight for me. Yes. I like that gonna say this because I might contradict it in a little bit, but they're not mutually exclusive. But I liked when they gave uh is it what's his name? Alex Okubo's character. Is it Polo? Right. I, yes. So when he spots the fraudulent money, I like that because like there are issues I have with that character that I will say in a bit, but I like that at least they gave him something because it was feeling a kind of way. Anyway, I mentioned KOK was great, right? There's I think Vanessa touched on it, but there's a scene where KK is looking proudly as Afam is sort of like coming into his own. What I liked about it, aside like I liked the subtle like pride KK had in his face. I also like that the dialogue that Afam at that time was it was not waffle. It was actually it was actually good dialogue. So he was talking about like so this is how you you be whining me, but you still go to Okodogiri's shop. I'll see like it wasn't just. Sometimes you can tell when people have just run out of lines and they're just yapping and yapping. And I liked that this was going on. What was going on in the background wasn't effort had been put into that. That felt nice. You don't often get it. There are many places this film doesn't do it. So I'm pointing that part out. I also liked when Shagun switched to Hausa to insult Afam. I thought that was brilliant. Interrogating him in Igbo, switches to Hausa, and just completely letting him have it. I enjoyed that a lot. Anything else that somebody else has not already said? Yeah, I think that's the quality of it. I liked the way it looked. I would agree with Corey. I liked the grade. It looks just the picture quality. It looked like they used a decently expensive camera and they graded it well. There's some orange and teal that I absolutely have no problems with. I actually think it feels pretty good. Yeah, I enjoyed that. All right. Okay. We're about switching to the things that we did not like. And the only person I know is first. The only person, right? Otas. All right.
I'm gonna say some things that sound like I don't love this movie, but all right. So the most obvious one, it was unclear why Odogo's daughter was half caste. Even her cousin as well. I didn't really understand that. Um, so also, while it was lovely to see Shegun Arize in something, and also, yes, him being a polyglot is also quite wonderful. I thought his character was entirely unnecessary. I thought the police station was unnecessary. I thought that whole setup of him being arrested, the whole questioning, all of it, completely useless. I think that if we had cut out that entire thing entirely, really nothing would have been lost because at the end of the day, they're not doing any investigation. It's just a place where Afam is telling the story that leads us to the wedding. Um, and maybe this is a personal preference. I think that it could have been integrated into the story better. Him just telling the story. Even him maybe telling his new boys like as a cautionary tale of brotherhood and jealousy, whatever, instead of the whole police thing. It just didn't end up making any sense, and it just felt like a waste of time for larger parts of the movie. Um, there's a scene as well where Shagun is like speaking outside to someone on the phone, which feels like it should be useful or pivotal later, but it just isn't. Ultimately, the whole detective thing amounts to nothing. Um, it didn't make much sense to me that the Dalandi brothers just kill him without even giving him a chance to pay the debt. They had been getting paid off for quite a while. It's also unclear how much the debt is. At some point, I heard 300 million, but I'm not quite sure if that's how much he owes him or owes them. I'm not sure how much Dan pays off. The payment goes on for a while. He's paying 5 million every month. for at least more than 1 year. So 2 years, I want to say, which is like 120 million. It's a sizable amount. So it didn't really make sense that he was killed. It felt convenient for the movie. The third act suffers greatly from the Nollywood third act curse. It's just very disjointed in comparison to the story that they are telling. And they almost start to stunt the characters that they've developed just to I guess move the plot along. And it made it feel a lot more clunky. Like Alex Ikubo's character Paul O just kind of goes off the rails. Like, yes, he's jealous, but then how do we end up with him being like a fraudster, scammer who only cares about partying? Up to that point, he was relatively hardworking. Yeah, sure, he wants easy money, but he seemed fine with working for it up to that point. So it just didn't feel established with the rest of the characters. I thought the guilt for being settled first went on for too long, at least 3 years, because their son at that point is like 3 or 4. I don't know how old he is. It's unclear if Paul is ever settled. I'm assuming that the money that he gets Amaka to steal is then just kind of used as a wash, but I don't know. No one ever addresses it. And that's my major problem here, is that Ojogu never mentions or addresses why he's settling the younger boy first. Never addresses, okay, your daughter stole from you for this guy, then what? Are they gonna arrest him? Nothing. It just feels like it just gets lost in the story somehow. Um Also, my final point is gonna be Obum. eh, so first of all, it feels like he's being typecasted because it feels like he's very much acting a similar character from the other one. But his character is set up more in the way that Paul ends up, and he just kind of disappears from the story entirely. But yeah, that's mostly it for me. Oh, I also thought it was too long for what it was. 2 hours was crazy, and this because of a lot of these useless scenes. And it could have been a tight hour and a half.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Atas. Yeah, here to like Obum suddenly disappearing. Well, what a wonderful vanishing act. All right, Vanessa.
Yeah. Um. So Otasa said quite a lot of what I felt, but I just want to emphasize the point of things that the contrivances of this film, and a lot of stuff just felt convenient for the plot. And for the story they wanted to tell instead of the story that wanted to be told. And maybe this is me assuming a story that wanted to be told, but as a lot of the first act evolved, right, there was the story to me was unveiling itself in the way it wanted to be told. And then halfway through the film, it almost felt like the filmmakers were like, yeah, no, burn what you want to tell me, I'm gonna tell what I want to tell, right? And then it just kind of messed it all up. I completely agree that the police storyline was unnecessary. I also think Paul's death and the way it was presented, a bit unnecessary too. And probably harsh a reward for bare minimum shit. Sorry. Um I also think Shegwarinze's Hausa accent was completely unnecessary if he was going to spend the entirety of the film speaking Igbo and then ending up speaking on the phone in Hausa. In fact, I had the same thought that Otas had when he spoke on the phone in house. I genuinely assumed in my brain, maybe this is me reaching, and maybe it's with Nollywood and twists, and I have become desensitized to a bunch of things or overly sensitive to a bunch of things. But the phone call happened, I was like, oh wait, is he in cahoots with the Danladi brothers, and is this a fake interrogation? But it didn't go anywhere. So like that was thrown into the wind, and I was like, okay, so what was the point of the phone call? Who was he speaking to on the phone? Another thing that was completely unnecessary was why were we having two completely different interrogations, but it was not made clear at what point who was telling the story? Because at some point we see Amaka with the police officer, and it seems like she's now the one who's telling the story, but the flashback isn't being told from her point of view. So I found it really confusing. And if you're telling this story from two points of views concurrently, then make it clear. Because it just felt like they were telling the story from Afam's point of view, which fairs. The film is Afamefuna, is his story, right? But you don't give us a scene with Amaka in interrogation where it seems like she's saying, and that's what happened between me, Paul, and Afamefuna. But you're not telling the story from the point of her point of view. I'm not seeing it from her eyes. Which brings me to my next point. It just felt like Amaka was a throwaway character who was only there to service, um, to further service. This is not a disservice to Amaka, so don't thumbs down me. I'm talking about how the writers treated Amaka as a character. It just felt like she was a throwaway character who was only there to service Afamefuna and Paul's story. I there was n- I didn't know anything about Amaka. Nothing about Amaka felt nothing and drew me to Amaka or kept me invested in her story, right? It just felt like she was there to move Paul and Afamifuna's story along. Um, there more could have been done to show how resentment built and how that turned Paul's character around from the young, enterprising, super smart on his feet, actually very friendly and caring to Afamefuna until the point where Afamefuna was settled before him. And so instead of spending all that silly time doing, oh, time passes and they meet later on in the future, show us how probably stuff was found out about how he was stealing from Odogu and getting Odogu daughter to steal from him. Or if did he choose to stay or did he leave with the 1 million and go to the Daladi brothers? Show us how the resentment continued to build, right? That would lead to him being this villain out of nowhere, right? It just a lot of it felt unearned, and so the second half of the film just didn't work for me. And so what? Afamifuna just walks out of the police station. What's happening? Again, I don't know. This wasn't an arrest. This was an interrogation that took the entire day. For what? To what end? What was the investigation on? And he goes, "We will contact you." About what? It just this is my thing about the story that should have been told and the story that the film wanted to tell and the story that the filmmakers decided they were going to tell. Because this felt like if we had just had Afamifuna telling the story and actually just watching this unfold, we didn't even need to have it be a telling the story. Why couldn't we just watch this life? Like, what is wrong with a slice of life story, right? And why didn't we just watch Afamifuna's life develop and all the other stuff happen in between? Because the techniques I hate, because I'm not particularly a technical person, right? But the flashback storytelling techniques didn't work in this. It was very hard to differentiate between what was a flashback, except the fact that they were moving between police cell and party in the parlor. Into it just didn't. The techniques in telling the flashbacks just felt very meh, right? Some of the character, some of the camera, the shot placements and stuff didn't feel right. It was very hard to tell that this was the 2000s. They did their best to cover up some bits about the streets, but it definitely didn't feel as 2000s as possible. But this is me just speaking on technical stuff. Even like some bits of the sound was off. But yeah, those are the things that I didn't like about Afamifuna. But again, it was an alright watch.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Vanessa. Cynthia, do you want to tell us some of the things you did not like?
Yes. So like unlike some people, I actually struggled to finish this movie. I found it very boring and I slept off a lot, so I could have missed a lot of things. But yes, I agree with Otas and Vanessa about Shingun Arize's character. I didn't think it was needed. Um, I didn't like the Hausa English dialect. I didn't see anything spectacular about the switch from Hausa to Igbo during the interrogation, especially because, to be honest, I felt the whole interrogation was off. Okay, especially because we know this is Nigerian police force. We know they're being recorded, and they were interrogating him in a native language, and there was no English translator, and I just felt everything was off. And saying that if they remove the interrogation, it's not going to like do anything to the story, because I would have loved to, like Vanessa said, I would have loved to know more about Afamefuna. I would have loved to know about why he even went to learn trade, because we had few background about him. Okay, so yeah, saying that the interrogation happened in a native language with switch in English, and it's a police cell and is recorded to be admitted, it also felt very off. Um, what else? I did not particularly enjoy the Igbo language spoken in this movie. I felt it was very monotonous. So I'm not Igbo, but my mom is Igbo, and I hear her speak a lot of dialects. Okay, the Onitsha, the and other dialects in Igbo, because there are different dialects depending on your village and other stuff. But everyone, or almost everyone, maybe except Stan Nze, but almost everyone was speaking in one tone, and it was very underwhelming. It wasn't exciting to me. I just felt the Igbo spoken was kind of monotonous. I think my big issue with this movie was the approach to the story they wanted to tell. So at some point, like I said, I love the idea of telling an apprenticeship story, but at some point, it felt like I was watching an instructive lecture. Okay, so it felt like everyone was trying to teach me something. Kanoya is explaining the rules. We are being taught what JJC means. We are being taught what Apiriko meant, and they didn't even go back to the Apiriko thing because Obun is greedy. We are being taught every single thing. Remaining small, they wanted to even teach us what's that adage? Is it a something in time saves nine? I don't even know. But it felt like an instruction. And I think this is where they had the biggest problem, because when you are giving someone a lecture, you can use an example without thinking about the character building or the character background or the character motivation. So it felt like they were using examples of what goes on in an Igbo apprenticeship. Okay, and we left our characters lacking in a lot of their development, background, and a lot of things were rushed. I would have loved to see the brotherhood formed a lot, but they kept telling us, and they know that because it's an instructive lecture, they kept telling us the brotherhood. Because it's an instructive lecture, they kept telling us things like the Igbo culture is beautiful. This is why Igbo are hardworking. But I would have loved to see it. So it was more of that approach of giving us a lecture about the apprenticeship system that kind of to me, affected the character build up, everybody's character, every single person. The motivation of Stan Nze, yes, I know the Oga like him, but I still have question of why he had to go to the custom office. The Oga promoting the the Oga promoting Polo before him. Like so many things, I felt because of this approach of teaching us this system rather than shooting a movie and building up these people character to show us how this system is. A lot of these things were just underdeveloped, and it just got worse towards the end of the movie. You see the old blackmail stuff. I'd already blacked out when it happened. I'd already blacked out when it happened. Yeah, so yeah, I think that is my major issue because sorry, the editing. How can I forget the editing? The editing was very distracting. Abba. Every time they are zooming in and zooming out to show us love triangle, zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out. Then we have it's dropping every time. But anyways, my biggest issue was just that instructive lecture that I think spoiled a lot of the character build up because it's easy to use an example without having to like think about the motivation and the background. Yes, my time is up. Thank you.
Oh no, thanks, Cynthia. Do you want to tell us some of the things that didn't sit with you?
Yes, to be fair, I agree with everything that has been said so far. I think first of all, I'll start with I found it hard to understand the timelines. I didn't know how much time had passed from when they were like when he was introduced to Odogu to when he was released to go and start his own business to when he was in the interrogation room. They didn't use a lot of the editing didn't really work to show the time and how much time had passed. Yeah, and like yes, I think we've already spoken about like the language. Because of how this story was told, I really didn't understand a lot of like the background and the motivation for a lot of the characters. I just feel like that interrogation angle really wasn't necessary, or it could have just been like a documentary or something. Like really feel like at the end they tried to introduce that conflict so it to feel like a movie. So it felt really, I won't say rushed, but it just felt really somehow. Yes, I really didn't understand like the background, especially especially of Afamefuna. Like, why was he introduced to trading? His dad seemed to be like a very good influence in his life. So what happened? What went wrong? Why couldn't he continue going to school? His dad sick, and did his dad die? And like, there are a lot of questions I had that they were left unanswered. Also, maybe because of the lack of motivation and background, sometimes it just really felt like the punishment that Paulo got was really not justified, because I didn't see anything that would warrant him being, at least even if you want to settle him, you don't want to give him that much. You could have at least settled him first, because the timing was funny. And I didn't even think his death was justified. Like, okay, they're using his business for money laundering, and so what? Like, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. um Stanza's character really didn't it wasn't really well built. He just felt like a stand. I didn't see other parts to him, and I also really didn't like that. And I think the bit I hated the most was the conflict. The conflict at the end was just rubbish. Like, how can you tell me that an Igbo man is paying you 5 million naira monthly because they settled him first? And like, nah, it didn't make sense. Even the whole angle to his child not being his and everything really didn't. It wasn't a very very solid conflict, and yeah, I just felt that they had a lot that they could have worked with. Yeah.
All right. No, thanks, Aurora. All right. Keep the comments coming out. I'm going to read them after the next speaker, Chinweke. Do you want to tell us some things you didn't like?
Okay. Okay. So a lot has been said about the language. Cynthia said this is actually my biggest issue with the film. Cynthia said it was monotonous, and this should probably be in the pushback section, but I don't know. I don't think it was monotonous. I thought it was quite varied, right?
Wait. Let's do that first. We'll get to pushback. Calm down. Don't worry this time.
No. It's not a pushback. It's actually something I dislike. Okay, but the Igbo was terrible. I'm sorry. It kept taking me out of it. Like a lot of the spoken Igbo was just terrible. Like the accents, the accent, it was so inconsistent. Like I don't know if there's any proper Igbo speaker here on the person, someone that understands Igbo. It was so terrible. Like it was so very grating to listen to. Like it kept taking me out of it. Like someone would speak, and my problem with it was the inconsistency, right? Like someone could be talking in a particular tone or accent, and then the inflections could change in the same sentence. Like it was very distracting. So it took me out of it a lot. So it was quite a struggle to look past it. And yeah, I mean Shegun Arinze is a legend, but please that Hausa accent thing, please let it not repeat itself, because I don't know what that was like. I'm sorry, please. And it had quite this it had quite this it was like very slow. The start was very slow. It felt like a bunch of random scenes being put together. Like there wasn't a lot of coherence with them. So a lot of it felt like mm, improv. Like I feel like the director sort of like left there wasn't a lot of directing per se. So like it felt like the director was like, okay, you guys should do your thing, and within this environment, right? So there was that, you could tell there wasn't a lot of coherence in a lot of the strings. It was like, let's put this, let's put this, let's put this, without any sort of like without any connection between those things. That's what a lot of it felt like. And there were forced narrative elements like I don't know, the whole post-war narrative with the whole Igbo people were given £10 to restart their life and all of that. Like it just felt. I mean, that for me is a very weighty subject. For you to just shunt it in there about some sort of as some sort of lesson, tangential off to somebody doing a perico or something like that. It just felt like it felt almost disrespectful to me, honestly. And yeah, someone has said this before, but the murder mystery, Kini, I don't know, it felt gimmicky. I did not understand the point of it. And I mean, I hate that I'm tearing into this film like this, but I mean, these are the level. That's the levels, right? Because this is, you could tell that the people that did this were are professionals, so they should know better and they should do better. There was a lot of unbelievable plot points, like the whole thing with walking up to a custom officer and then listening to a high-ranking custom official and then listening in on their phone call and then telling them correct, suggesting what was it he suggested again? What,
Racketeering.
sorry, what was that?
Racketeering.
Racketeering. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, that was like for at that moment I had to pause and go and do something else and come back because that was just too much for me. Um, Afam's character, I mean, Stan, I'm a huge Stan as a fan. I thought his performance was brilliant as much as the role allowed him to be. But I don't know. He felt boring actually. Like there wasn't any conflict. There wasn't. It was just there. It was too good. You know, like give me something. You know, like this. We are talking about a human being. Give me something. I don't know. Like it was just. It was almost too perfect. It was boring. I beg. The final chapter of it was. It felt rushed. A lot of it didn't make sense. I kept having. I couldn't even watch it because it kept. It didn't make. I couldn't piece it up together in my head. And yeah, like and also that Ada's performance, I don't know, man. And then her Igbo in particular, Jesus Christ, it was just God, please, like make it stop. Like anytime she spoke Igbo, it was like, oh my goodness, I had to actually anytime she came on screen, I wanted to speak Igbo, I had to like pause and then like brace myself for it, and then she would still shatter whatever brace I put up. Like it was really, I don't know, man. It was really awful. Yeah, but I think the biggest issue for me was the language, man. The spoken Igbo, it was just terrible. It was really terrible. And yeah, I think that's it for now. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chinweke. Let's go to some comments. Oh man. All right. So Rini has said a lot. Let's see. Rini says, I had an issue with the way that the era was portrayed. There was no difference between the present and the past, no change in color grading. This is Emeka. Emeka says, if I was Afam, I would give you back your child for real. Wolf of Upper says, the film sets up a lot of subplots that were left unresolved. Rennie says, Amaka is a character we see but don't know, or is it so because the story was still from Afam's perspective? Amaka was too accessible for an Aga's only daughter. It doesn't happen like that. And why is Amaka white when her mom isn't? All right. Also, Rennie says, I hated that it was slow paced. I feel like they took so much time dwelling on a particular thing, showing Afam around and seeing how he adapted instead of giving us more insights into the Uma Boy system. He says, yeah, Obum's arc would have been something to see. All right. Vanessa says they are fluctuating Arinze as the police detective to death. Abi, was he a police officer in his former life? It has to stop. All right. Thanks for all the comments. I think we're going to go Uchenna next. Uchenna, please can you tell us some of the things you didn't like?
Okay, well, for one thing, I wasn't really pleased with the directing. It became a sort of a running game with me watching it that in every scene, I would just think about how the camera is in the wrong position or a better place the camera could have been placed, and how the scene could have been blocked differently. It just became a running theme for me. But not just the work with the camera. I think the directing of the actors was not really what it could have been. And I think, there might be some limitations there because the movie is directed by somebody who is not a speaker of the language that the film is in. So, just like Chinwike said, it felt as if the director just was at arm's length and said, "You guys just do what you do, just go ahead and do it." And the problem with that is that I just felt the actors didn't feel properly motivated, and the, there was a certain lack of color to the performances. Even though I liked some of the performances, they felt stilted in a way because it's like the English speak using their words, and the Italians speak using their words and their hands, and Africans tend to speak using their whole bodies. And over here, I don't know, you just had people standing stock still in this weird blocking, just delivering lines at each other. And that seemed especially stilted given the very robust and body world of the market. Like, if you've been to the market, you see the way those boys act, the way they talk. They have a specific kind of slang and a rhythm to their movement that just wasn't there. It didn't have that vividness. And speaking of vividness, we didn't really get to see the market. It felt stagey and boxed in. When you're dealing with the world like the market, I mean, I don't know if there's limitations of budget or if there's limitations of vision, but just think about how colorful the market, the labyrinthine world of the market, weaving through all the aisles, seeing all these different shops, all these different colorful products. I wish I'd seen some stuff like that. I mean, the tiles thing, I would have chosen a different product personally, something just a bit more expressive. But tiles could be pretty interesting too. But every time we see the tiles, they're all wrapped up. We just see these guys running around carrying these wrapped up slates and paper. I really wish I could have seen something a bit more vivid and colorful. And I would have liked to see some more of the culture of the market. I would have liked to see the way the market works. When you think about movies like The Wolf of Wall Street or Casino or Goodfellas, okay, I'm naming all Scorsese movies, but he's good at doing that, of bringing you into a world, a culture of a particular business and showing you the way that it works. And I don't think we really got that. And even the culture amongst the guys. I would have liked to see some more of the rights of masculinity and even the sexual harassment, which is very much a part of that culture. I mean, we do see a little bit of it. There's a moment that we see, when this guy's like, "My color," but we didn't see enough of that stuff, I think. But that's because this movie as a whole just has that. I mean, earlier I said it reminds me of Onisha pamphlets that were meant to be instructional, um, but it, they just have that old Eze goes to school feeling to them, where the characters are not three dimensional in any way. Like in this, the characters didn't even have to have names. They could have been the wise master, the good apprentice, and the bad apprentice. There's no complexity to any of them. And then, okay, Atlanta Bridget Johnson, she was miscast. uh, I don't know why she was cast in this. She doesn't speak the language. And I think the fact that she doesn't speak the language is what made her character limited, as other people have said. Because in the first part of the movie, the younger version of her actually seemed to have something going on. But once we transition to the older part of her, she just becomes a prop. And she barely speaks. Because she can't, Atlanta is South African or Zimbabwean. I think she's half Nigerian. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not. I don't blame Kasum for giving her a job, but I think that somebody else could have been cast over there. Or at worst, why not just make it that she can't speak Igbo? I mean, what was the point of that other niece who couldn't speak Igbo, who appears in one scene? Those characteristics should have been transferred to Amaka's character. Now you might say, well, if you have a character like Odogu who is such a man of culture and wisdom and pride in his culture, would he have a daughter who can't speak Igbo? It's possible. Things like that do happen, and that would have added some more complexity to the character. I mean, look at Afam's character. I mean, he's not necessarily a vanguard of the culture, but he's somebody who speaks Igbo all the time, even speaking Igbo to people he doesn't expect to understand Igbo, such as when he speaks to the detective, not knowing that the detective speaks Igbo, and his son can't speak Igbo. So, I mean, it was. I don't think. I think they could have given her that that way out that she doesn't speak Igbo, and that would have given her a chance to perform more. Because the thing about movies like this is that the script tends to be written in English, and it's up to the characters, it's up to the actors to translate it essentially into the language. And I think that's part of why the language feels stilted, as Chinweke said, because not everybody has that skill. I mean, I would have thought that someone like Odogu would have been a lot more colorful in his speech, using more proverbs and slangs and examples and things like that. But everybody speaks in this very prosaic way because the actors aren't necessarily skilled at that kind of improvisation. That's the thing that makes someone like Peter Doce the king of this genre, because he actually does live all those proverbs and stuff like that, and he can bring them to his performance. Let's see what else. Well, as been already been said a bunch of times, the mystery is really dumb. Uh, it's the kind of mystery where everybody has to be stupid in order for the plot to work. Like, you know, Afam could have just told him right at the celebration, this guy owed gangsters and they want to kill him, and that would have been the end of the story. But instead, we have to go through all this rigmarole where Shegun Arinze asks him, "And where is Amaka now?" And he says, "She's in my house. She is my wife." And then the score goes, "Gang, gang," and Shegun Arinze is like shocked. He gets up and makes a phone call, and I'm like, "You were just at the guy's house, and you say that you monitor his Instagram. You don't know who his wife is. Why is this? Why is this happening? So none of that stuff was really necessary. Let me see. What else would I say? Yeah, I don't know. I just wish it had been more three dimensional. When I think about, I don't like to tell the filmmaker the movies they should have made, but when I think about certain things, like I said about going through all the aisles of the market, I just imagine the Goodfellas like tracking shots you could have had. Okay, my time's over. Bye bye.
All right, no, thanks, Uchenna. Appreciate. Inka, do you want to tell us some of the things you did not like about Afamefuna?
Not about. I did not know that woman was not evil. Oops. I do not understand illegal. I do not understand Igbo. I know Amaka means beautiful, and I only know some words. So I cannot talk about the Igbo parts, about the Igbo language parts. I will say yes, it's stupid, but I can accept the framing device. A framing device is a framing device. The issue for me is that I am accepting your framing device, and I'm accepting that this is a story of a life. The friendship between, what's his name again? Johnny, Polo, and Afam. What people are saying, I kind of need a little bit more of betrayal that was happening. The big betrayal, the big supported betrayal should be the settlement before. The settlement, right? Got it. Got it. But there should be some sort of type of things that there was a tension there, a seed of tension there, and it just went that way. It could have gone it could have gone a good way, it could have gone a bad way. Afam's character is supposed to be a good. I get what people are saying that Afam is supposed to be good, but Afam did go after a girl that is technically with his friend. Even if his friend does not really like that girl, or the friend is using that girl, you still went after a girl that you said is your friend something. While the girl tells you that she's with your friend. Afam is not completely nice. He's framed as completely nice, but the writing says something else a little bit. But Afam is still the good one, right? I just need them to be in more than one dimension. I just need that the story that you're telling, I'm not imagining another story. You didn't give me the story that I'm imagining your story. And I felt like for their story to be, there should be more. There should be more attention paid to the relationships between Polo and Hafam. Now I know why that girl is not really used, because apparently she doesn't speak Igbo now. But I'm not against like sometimes women just being there as something of a prize for the man, especially if it's a story told from the man's perspective. I'm not against it. Look, I'm not against it. Whatever. Sometimes in life, people see us as prizes, not necessarily just women, even men too. People see them as prizes and like, okay, if it's a story from somebody's perspective. It's okay. It's cool. But she, even though she's that, and I'm willing to accept that something for this story because it's not her story, she doesn't do much. The only much that I can see is that she's a light-skinned, beautiful babe. She Amaka, that girl is Amaka. That's it. And maybe that's enough. That's enough because Lord knows people have done stupid things for beauty. It's okay. It's cool. Gatsby died. You know? So, but like, there should have been a little bit more. There should have been a little more. And the ending of the story, where this man admitted to very much at the least third degree murder. Because you knew that if you don't pay that, there was a possibility this man might die. And you admitted it to the police. And it's just left like that. This just means that the writer does not understand legal system at all. At all. Which is okay. It's hilarious. But for it to have been better, like, try to understand that maybe she shouldn't have admitted that part at all. I'm just so serious because if this was in real life, this man is going to jail. Yeah, those little things that just come up, maybe a little bit more vibrancy of the market, but I don't care. You don't have the budget for that, it's cool. But the thing that would have made this movie a little bit better is more writing of the characters, more dimensions of the characters. Also, like, why is Odogu not a little bit more? Okay, I'm done. And a little bit more explanation of the apprentice system than what we have. I hate my time because I've been kicked out.
All right, no, thanks, Inka. More comments. Mrs. and I were discussing about
ethics of
the ethics of, because like one thing that is from that investigation is that I don't think he did anything wrong, but I wouldn't have told the police, yes, he was blackmailing me just before I stopped the payment. It's like, why?
Who could kill him?
Yeah, it's just
Just be like, I didn't have any money to pay them this month, so I didn't pay them. I guess that's what happened.
Yeah, anyway, all right. So some people's some comments. The Hayes says that essentially someone was making a movie across cultural lines and had to be overly reverential. Unless you were a bad guy, you had to be as good as possible, almost saintly. Not much could be addressed with a critical eye. Not the characters either. Link says, don't think they carried out proper research. Wolf of Upper Wike says, what if Odogu wasn't her real father? Lamy says, the only thing I didn't like, which might be ridiculous, was how many times Paula says, you took my destiny. Paraphrase sometimes. It became ridiculous after a while. Paying 5 million because of guilt is insane. Lamios says, I also don't know if it's just me wondering why he didn't want everyone to know his son was not his. I don't know. I wish it was explained. Maybe it's a cultural thing. I mean, paying 10 million to someone blackmailing you can't just be to save face and prevent embarrassment. That second half. Yeah. No, I don't know. It didn't seem, I don't know. HNS says, yes, another thing I wanted to say, Chiweke also suggested this, but the characters are not dynamic. None of them really change in any way, and that is all the more why it feels like Tales by Moonlight. All right. Let me see. Elizabeth, you want to tell us some things that you didn't like? Can other people hear Elizabeth? I can't hear her.
I can.
Oh, God. Okay. Someone just let me know when Elizabeth has finished. Sorry, Elizabeth. I can't
hear it either.
I can't hear.
I can't hear.
I cannot hear.
Oh. Cynthia, did you say you can?
I said I can't, nah. I can't.
I thought you said you can. Okay. Elizabeth, it doesn't seem like anybody can hear you. Try dropping off and dropping on. All right. Okay, so I think is Nollywood Must Change. Nollywood Must Change.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth, for topic for me. So, what do I dislike? Okay, I think I dislike you guys disliking my Ada. Was her name Amaka? I really like her, but I don't know why you guys dislike her. Hmm. You guys are beefing now. So, what do I dislike about Afamefuna? I think one thing I hate about this movie is the writing. People have been arguing this is writing, this is the best writing. So. I kind of like let us be serious. Let us be true to ourselves. The writing of this movie is not good enough. It could have been better. It's not the worst thing, but it's not good enough, and it doesn't deserve an award nomination for what I saw. Because, in fact, I never cared about any of the characters in this movie. This movie felt like a documentary to me. But something in my mind tells me that the person who wrote this movie didn't write this movie like this. I think when they wrote the movie of like a love triangle, brotherhood, and someone just came and said, "Oh, since we have these guys learning trade, let's do a movie about Unwa boys. Let's do a movie about apprenticeship, apprenticeship in the Igbo culture. Let's do that because for the for the first 1 hour of this movie, they kept going about meanwhile our trade, all this, that, and that, and it felt forced into the story in a way. Not like it doesn't work with the story, but it felt something just felt forced, like the niece coming to the shop and asking, "Why didn't you have women working with you, working for you?" Do you understand? So most of the things felt forced, and they didn't give us the story, the conflict they could build up and show us in the second half. They would have showed us in the second half of this movie. And the characters were okay. Let's say they were one dimensional, but the character arc were not making sense. The character arcs were not making sense. Like this guy, like Afamefuna, all of a sudden, in the end, I was surprised when he could just let them kill that guy like that. I think maybe it was one that would send them, or maybe he supported them, or just I don't know. I was like, this is not the character you've been building for us. This is not the character you've made us to know. And then Polo coming to be this guy, this greedy guy, this bad guy. Yeah, he's a womanizer, but I think these people were trying to do good guy, bad guy. And the only thing about the bad guy is a womanizer. So are there not good people who are womanizers? Please. So the writing could have been better. It could have been better than this. I really didn't enjoy it. I felt like a documentary that I was just watching. I was like, okay, what should I feel for these people? I didn't feel anything. The love triangle, forced the love triangle, because you made the girl just look like she was just there to move the plot. Like, why does this girl like Polo? Why does she like Afamefuna? Because for me, I just like this girl likes. Please, I don't want to forget. This guy just like penis. No, sorry. Pardon me. This guy just like me, just like for nothing. And I'm like, the love triangle doesn't make sense for this kind of
Stop. What just happened? Where did you go? The echo is it's pretty bad. Come out of the well, please.
Okay, people are like making noise behind me, so I just have to leave there.
Okay.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes. If
Okay, so
if you're ever able to just take out your headphones, just to speak to us, it might be better.
okay, let me do that. Now.
Go on. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So the love triangle was paused. Kind of. I didn't like enjoy it, and I think this kind of murder investigation thing didn't work with the old Unwa boys. This story is set in the that culture, is set in that world, but the murder doesn't work with it for me. I think you could have just have a story of someone, coming from nothing and through the whole system, it became something. Yeah, there will be conflict in the middle, but the love triangle and the murder didn't work for me actually. So I think the writing is just most of it is the thing I have issues with. I didn't enjoy the storytelling in this movie, and the old song, someone is dropping thing was just too much in this movie, and the girl, the cousin, the niece, I mean, the boss's niece that was just there to move the was she even there to move the plot? She was just coming in and out and nothing else. So I think that's all I can remember.
All right, thanks, Nollywood Masabe. Elizabeth, hey, still nothing.
Sorry, the way Mr. say hey.
Oh, sorry, Elon is not doing it for you this period. Sorry, Elizabeth. All right. I think Ada is the. Ada, do you want to tell us some of the things you didn't like?
Yeah, sure can do. I'm gonna start with a quite petty one. There was misspelling. The very first, I believe it was the very first scene, there was that quote about the Igbo apprenticeship scheme. And it was literally the first sentence that something like the Igbos has. And I actually Googled the quote to see if it was an actual quote. It was a real quote from like Harvard. And all they had to do was copy and paste it at the very least. So I'm very confused why that was misspelled. And it is quite petty, but it's also something like this is the very first introduction that people have to your movie. So it's worrying that there wasn't that level of attention to detail. I think also Anyanwu boy story doesn't work, but I don't know the combination of Igbo English. I don't know how that works. I believe it should be a Nwa story, but I'm gonna leave that alone. But yeah, that was just a little petty thing. As people have mentioned, I'm not sure why the interrogation would be in Igbo. It's an actual proper investigation. It also had the recorder. I'm not sure why it would be in a language that wasn't, I guess the lingua franca of the country. So that was a bit confusing, but I won't go too much into that. Certain scenes, certain things in the movie felt too, how do I put it? Maybe like as a way of like damage control. As someone mentioned, the niece, I think it was the niece, the American niece that didn't really speak Igbo. And she was like, oh, why are there not women in the Igbo apprenticeship system? It felt like they wanted to explain away any potential bad things that people could have about this cultural thing. And then it went into a whole thing about, the Igbo man is this, the Igbo man doesn't steal, the Igbo man doesn't think. It felt like a lot of it was kind of like PR-ish. And at times it felt a little bit too forced. I feel like they could have just let the story play along, let the culture play along, and let people kind of understand that on their own without having this injections of, I guess, PR or image cleaning in some way. I didn't really like Amake's character. I felt like she had too much of a prominent role for what the story was. I think the story would have worked a lot more if she wasn't as prominent. I don't think she added a lot to the story, and I feel she took a little bit of the screen time that could have been given to other parts of the story. And then speaking of that, I think the friendship wasn't given enough time. So they spent quite, I think the first half of the movie giving us a little bit of background about the apprenticeship system, this boy coming to this guy or Douglas shop, setting up, getting around, working with the system. But there wasn't, I failed to see where that friendship, that foundation of the friendship was developed. I felt that it was just introduced to us, from my perspective, around, the middle of the movie when we were meant to be shocked by how he, I guess, betrayed him. But again, I didn't understand the perspective of betrayal because up to that point, we weren't really given much of an insight of these two people's friendship. We understood they worked together. He showed him around. that is fair enough. That does not indicate the depth of their friendship. That does not give me an indication of why Paul felt betrayed by by Odogu choosing Afamefuna over him. It does not also give me a level of insight of why he would feel betrayed by Paul's change in behavior, which does not explain why he's paying his debt on his behalf. So, for example, when he sees Amaka in the shop after how many years, and then Paul comes out of the shop, he is quite cold towards him. He is quite dismissive. So that shows me that the friendship, there isn't much of a friendship anyway at that point. But then after a few, I don't know what the timeline is, he starts paying off his debt. What reason is there for that? Is that friendship that's not established? Does he feel that he betrayed him? Sorry. Or does he feel guilt? I don't know. I feel like that wasn't really clearly established for me to believe enough that this man will fork out millions every month on behalf of this guy that he hasn't seen in a few years, that he kind of dismissed when he saw that he was dating Amaka after, he came out of the shop. It's not believable to me because they haven't built that foundation of me believing that these people are good friends, and there has been like I guess a major betrayal that maybe he feels like he needs to rectify for. The timings also, are a bit confusing. I also don't know the age that they're meant to be. I think the girl in the beginning was kind of like underage. I'm not sure if they also were meant to be, or maybe they hired actors that looked older, but I was a bit confused by that. I was a bit confused by how many years they were in the apprenticeship system, because it seemed that they obviously aged quite a bit. Also, talking about the apprenticeship system, I think while it was mentioned, I think it was only used as a background for the story. And it seemed that the little bit of the marketing or a little bit of the story was trying to aim to tell us about this Igbo apprenticeship system. But I don't think I would come away from this movie thinking or understanding that I understood a little bit more about the Igbo apprenticeship system. It was very basically, it's a story that I could tell without having any insight into this Igbo apprenticeship system. It didn't give us any detail, any nuance to it. It was quite basic. And to be fair, there was probably no need to include that, because that could have literally happened. The whole story could have literally happened with them working at the shop for no reason. So I think they try to add that particular aspect for it to be a bit more, I guess, culturally relevant. But they didn't really go into any depth. So I felt a bit let down, but at the same time, I feel like the story wasn't about the Igbo apprenticeship system. They just wanted to include it. It was about this friendship and the betrayal. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm on my last point if I'm running out of time.
Kind of run out of time. If it's quick, please just make it quick.
It's just quick and it's just petty again. Not sure why the body was discovered in a park. I think he was shot in the main road. I don't know why they hid him in the park. It wasn't even well hidden, like in a bush somewhere. It was plainly visible, so I'm a bit confused about that. And as you mentioned, I don't know why he admitted to like blackmailing him, and then he admitted that he was blackmailing him, and that then he was in dealings with these bad people, and the police was like, oh yeah, that's fine, that's fair enough, you can go. They would definitely hold him for more questioning, so that was a bit weird. But yeah, that was it for me. Thanks.
All right, no, thank you. A few more comments have come in. Anchor says, I laughed at the first part, which was like stakeholder capitalism. Lehi says, why was the topic of why girls added if they weren't going to do anything? Also, the timelines between when Alex Akubo's character had sex with her and then they married, and more timeline complaints. Although I think maybe they were just explaining why there weren't girls there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mr. C.
We have a couple of dislikes to read. You need to read Corey's dislike.
All right. Okay. Do you have Corey's dislikes you want to read, or should I?
I can read it.
Okay.
Okay. I have two dislikes to read. Start with Corey's dislikes. So Corey from Nollywood Ramblers says, I didn't like the end. Yes, they decided love over whatever happened, but who killed Polo? Was it Dan Laddie's crew or the wife or even Afam? Inquiring minds need to know. There were about 2 points with spotty sound mix that was very distracting, and I was a bit underwhelmed by the casting choice for the young Stan Nze. Then I have from Lohi. Quick likes were Alex and Stan's performances. Dislikes, the art department didn't really do well in this film. We believe production design should only be paid attention to when it's epics, but gosh, the production design was very bad. From the tile shop not changing over 20 years. Kanayo could have worn a Claire Mohammed type old face. There's so many 2000s films to get info from. We had those places that felt like POS stands, but because they were not common in the 2000s, couldn't they have reformed to the business centers? Blocking and staging in this could be so much better. Shegma Rinze's accent was bad. The editing wasn't great. Why some shot selections? Too many contrived things, especially in Act 3. The sound design wasn't great. That was not an Igbo market feel. And also to production design, that shop sign. Okay. Yeah, so over to my dislikes. I'm going to go back to I'm going to start with this one. The casting, Amaka's casting. I know somebody has mentioned and asked why was she mixed race. But, sorry, just a quick question. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. Oh, yes, we can hear you. Amazing. All right. I'm going next. So someone's asked why was she mixed race, but it was such distracting casting. It wasn't just that it was very distracting, her being mixed. There was such an easy switch there because they brought a whole ass cousin that did absolutely nothing. And if we just swapped her title from daughter to cousin, I would not have been as distracted as I was. It was just such a shock when I saw the wife and she was just, normal Black person. So that was my first problem. My second thing was, and again, we're going back to this timeline thing. I don't know. And it's this thing where we're not really setting rules. And I think it was Ada saying that it doesn't feel like we've gotten any more insight into the apprenticeship system than the baseline thing that everybody, knows, just as lay people. And it's how long, right? What are the rules to this world? Is it that, your master will settle you whenever? Is there a timeline to this settlement? Or can you be an Nwa boy for 15, 20, 25, 30 odd years, right? There was no clarity on any expectations of how soon Oga will settle, how much time left before you get settled. So, which is why, it was the whole mix up now with the settlement of Afam going first and this guy. It's like, have the rules been established? The rules weren't established. Also, the way in which they chose to tell the story, I was interested in that earlier bit, right? The growing up, the learning how to be an Nwa boy, all of that stuff. But couching it within this murder investigation took so much, quite a bit of my enjoyment out of it because it just didn't work. They really do just bring him for questioning. And like, I don't know who just mentioned, he admits to, yes, this person was blackmailing me and all of that stuff. We get to that in the end and they just let him go. So clearly there was, if this was just a normal questioning session, there would be no need to pull him out of his father's remembrance, right? This is something that they could have done tomorrow. He wasn't under arrest. So that didn't work. Also, there is, why are you telling him your whole life story, right, in that it didn't work. I could have just started with that story. I didn't need it to be happening in an interrogation room. It took a lot out of it for me. Also, his love story with Amaka, I'm sorry. And sorry to Vanessa, I don't know what you enjoyed in this romance. This,
You
oh
people are
my goodness.
misunderstanding me, oh.
I there for
Oh,
you. I mean, behind you,
You
Mrs.
are
T. Continue.
misunderstanding me.
I am behind you, Mrs. T.
see,
I
see,
didn't say I
even
like
the
the romance.
moment,
I say I like the
look,
way you look at her.
It's a
see, even
lie.
when he
You
was
like the
looking at her
romance.
like that, look, when he touched her hair, I asked, why is he touching
You
her
people
hair?
are
Thank
stupid.
you. Thank
The
you.
most,
You
they
people
did
are
not have that kind
stupid.
of familiarity. They didn't have that kind of familiarity. I'm sorry, they didn't. There was one hug because she was crying. There was no reason for him to be stroking her face and touching her hair. It's highly inappropriate. She
You
should have
are
slapped.
strict. You people are strict.
Thank you. I beg you.
So I'm strict. I'm strict. And also, Amaka is a bird. I'm sorry. They put no thought into that babe's character. They put no thought into this girl. This girl is just so the movie can happen. Because why is she making bird brain decisions all the way from 17 to 75? Like, if Polo lived, she might have been sneaking off with that idiot. I just don't understand it, right? And again, I've seen a few people ask, like, why is Oga's daughter so accessible, right, to the Nwa boys? Why is she so accessible? It just
On the streets.
yeah, Amaka is for the streets. Not gonna lie, Amaka is for the streets. But I think that's just bad writing, to be honest. They don't really give her enough motivation to. And sorry, I've just gone back to the timeline again because I don't know. Amaka was supposed to be studying medicine and she was still in uni by the time these guys were getting settled. But Stan and Zay had gone from the, fresh-faced 17-year-old to a 30-something-year-old looking person. And maybe she was just an Olodo in school. I don't know. Then Polo's character, I feel like the writers really hated Polo and they didn't put a lot into progressing him. And it was, I think there was this, because he had to die and we had to not feel bad that he died, he then just had to be as terrible as possible. Because again, I mentioned in my good that young Polo was kind of a fun character to follow. And from that opening, that's his first sequence. We know that he likes women. But we don't know how it transitions from that to using Amaka for money, right? We don't know how. And again, right before that scene with all of the drama of, oh, you settled, you stole my destiny, and Afam got settled first, he's sharp, right? He spots that fake money was being used to pay, right? He was not the guy that had serious big eye with the apricot and overcharged that drastically. So I don't know how we've gotten to this point where he's just a completely useless individual. And one could say, okay, maybe he got useless because he was triggered by being overlooked. But again, we keep seeing KOK's character being shown as this kind but firm, boss who looks on these boys kind of like his own. And I don't see how that character doesn't at least settle his senior Nwa boy with something before settling Afam. I don't see it. And yes, he saved him 8 million. Sure. Right? But you do want to inspire your loyalty. You do want these boys to know that, yes, you serve me diligently, you will get rewarded on time, right? Not to be looked over by your over for younger ones and whatever. But yeah, I think the writing really got away with itself in that last bit. They just lost it with Paul's character. So yeah, we lose him on that bit, and then he's blackmailing someone who is saving his life. And you've not given me any indication as to why this person would be that stupid. And again, no reason why homeboy, what's his name, Afam, is paying 5 million a month. I'm sorry, as stereotypical as it sounds, I don't see any Igbo businessman paying 5 million a month for his old friend over greed. He was settled with 6 million. If he felt bad enough, he could have given him 6 million and moved on with his life. And it's not I don't like the way this character acted. It's you haven't given me enough to justify this character behaving in this way. But, oh yeah, sorry, my time's up. All right. Those are the things I did not like about Afamefuna. Mr. C, you go.
No. Elizabeth.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so let's get straight into it. So, what do I not like? Number one, my overall summary is that the storytelling feels clumsy. This is in both technical terms and then in writing wise. Now, let's talk about the clumsiness. First, every dialogue often felt like a call and response. Like there is this lack of fluidity to it. It's quite choppy. It's like I'm expecting. In fact, when there's a response, it's like I'm expecting that response, right? It felt very formulaic. And then another thing is, why is the conflict showing up after like more than 50 minutes into this film? I'm like, okay, not maybe like 40 minutes or whatever. Like, what is going on? I had to wait that long to see that old Paul and whatever thing. And by the time I didn't finish this film, but as at when I stopped watching, it was where Amaka was, is that her name, crying. And it was like, Paul, Lord, they could collect the money, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, why are we using exposition to push the plot forward? I know that they've shown us that, he was fleecing money out of her, but this felt very convenient. And this is just in the story writing. And this is the problem I have. And then we have these two characters, Paul 1, which felt like the entire first act, Paul's character felt better written because there's a little bit of complexity to him. It felt human, right? There were these two persons. We don't know if he's perfect. We don't know if he's good. We don't know he's not innately good or bad either. We've not exactly seen something to hold on to, but it felt interesting. Unlike Afam's character, just felt so linear. This goody two shoes, except there was this part where money was, somebody bought after that whatever he collected money, he kept some, and then he gave Paul and said, give it to Welga. I wasn't so sure what was going on there. Was it that he was giving like tip and sharing with his boss, or was it doing what the other guy did? Well, anyways, that's for the writing. I didn't understand it. I thought the first act, all these setting up things went on for too long. Should not have gone on for that long before we got to the meat of the story. So second one for me is in the technicalities, right? Technicalities. First, let me start with my first non-issue, which would be the flashback. The lack of any creativity used in the technique. I mean, he was telling us a story. He was telling he wasn't telling us, he was telling the Shegun Riz's character. And then nothing changed. I'm not saying that you should do black and white, please. I'm not saying you should use separate. Don't even change color. I don't know what. Change the frame. I don't know. Do something, right? Make me think it's the 2000s. And then there's this thing that Yoruba people used to do, like that flashback inside in flashback. It happened, yeah. And I really had a good go because nothing also changed. I'm like, so what is happening here? When you remember that thing that maybe is that told when he was small and then he went to the customs office, I'm like, oh my God. I think the lack of using any form of technique, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's lazy. Outright. You're not trying to help your viewers. When they change technique, sometimes this technique is not for the sake of technique. It's to elevate the storytelling and to help your audience, right? To follow through your timelines. But you're just there, just everything, bang, 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 the same color. Okay. And then let's talk about, another thing. Yeah, the blocking. Let's talk about the blocking. That blocking gong. It was very distracting for me because by the third time I saw that 3-person triangle thing going on. And it is often used when somebody is eavesdropping or listening in on a conversation or just watching. I noticed because it happened more than 5 times. By the time I was watching, it was maybe 8 times by that time I had counted. At this point, I was like, again, technique for the sake of technique. Is that something I should be seeing here, apart from somebody listening in on a conversation? Is it that, in fact, at some point I was thinking maybe there's an elevated artistic interpretation of it, like maybe the In One Boy story is about, looking in from the outside, whatever. I don't understand. What was that? And then, which brings me to the clumsiness. So I thought the cinematography was extremely clumsy. In fact, it was between the directing, cinematography, and editing, because I felt like the editor hated whatever was going on. Because the editing felt very choppy, which even gives the entire overall feeling this clumsy from storytelling. There was nothing smooth or fluid. Even the interactions with the Nwa boys in the market, nothing fluid. There was no fluidity to it. It was obvious. It was obvious that if this was a film or props, nothing felt so natural. The editing, there was this transition scene when, small Afam became big Afam. I was like, hey, what is happening here? Then there was another one. There's always that close shot when Afam is listening on that Amaka and Paul. It happened twice or so. And it was very distracting. It was too close. It was clumsy. It was almost caught. The next thing we saw him, he was doing the press up. Yeah, the push up. I was like, how did this happen? Like, I had to rewind it to like, from when they switched like this. What was in fact, in my head, I was like, if you had gone this way, anyways, it really shouldn't bother me. But it really did bother me because it made it distracting. And this story was not compelling enough for me to just keep going because I've not finished it, not because it was that boring. Of course, it's not compelling, but because I didn't even have time. Now, even if I didn't have time, it was that compelling, I would have forced myself. But there was really no need because I was just seeing all these things I wasn't picking it out. It was just standing there in front of me, distracting me from the entire story. And so it was just distracting. And then back to the whatever, it was didactic and long-winded, some of the conversations. I don't mind it. I don't mind some. But you see that custom scene, like, oh, this is why Nigeria, blah, blah, blah. I was done at that point. Afam's characterization, I think I've spoken about it. I was expecting at some point that our protagonist should have some form of internal conflict to him because he's our protagonist. But the way this film just went so linear with his characterization, I just knew that, I don't know if he eventually had some complexity to him, but I felt like it was boring. Editing be the enemy, those close shots. Then the scoring was distracting. Throughout KOK watching Afam scene or watching Paul, there was this particular soundtrack that goes on when KOK is watching them. You know which one I'm talking about? It was just too distracting because every time I'm watching it, I'm like, what if this song is not there? I felt like it would have helped in the way we watch because it felt like this soundtrack the scoring is there to make me think something, force me to feel something like, oh, okay, is liking Afam. Why don't you trust me as your audience enough for me to make that decision, right? And there was this scene where I'm not, which other one? There was one other thing that confused me. In fact, it was just clumsy. That's my summary over head and tail, clumsy. I'm out.
All right. Thanks, Elizabeth. I think it's me. All right. A lot of people have said a bunch of the things I wanted to say, but I think there's plenty more. We'll start with the sort of smaller ones. Intro. I didn't particularly like the intro. It did have. I think it was Ada that pointed out that it did have an error, and just even the way they put the beginning together. But it did tell me that I'm not in good hands after the error, and just I think the way the way the title card was put together wasn't great. And then also there was some, I think, spotted a subtitle error. There's one that's Kolan and Art instead of Kolan Art. But yeah, but generally, I'm going to say is like, I every time I try to enjoy this film, I'm like, I understand what Jenna was trying to say with the, like, it feels like a hug. And it felt like it was trying to hug me, but every time I came closer, it would like burp in my face or something. It didn't. There was something always distracting me. I'll get to that in a bit. Let me on my smaller nitpicks. The credits. Okay, so I know not everybody does credits here, but as somebody who does Nolly data, I have to tell you, and unfortunately, it's not the first time Kayode's films have not great credits. So in the credits, Afam, Paul, and Amaka, they're not differentiated, even though like we have 3 Afams in this film. They're just Afam, and like they're not. It's not even like they're next together in some sort of order. I didn't even see the third Afam, the youngest Afam, but everybody's like Afam, Paul, then another one, Paul. I don't think that's good. Like look to something like Moonlight for ways of doing this. Young Kevin and Kevin versus actually in Moonlight they did interesting things where almost each section of child has a different nickname, which actually helps. I remember when, no, I don't want to talk about a different movie, but there are ways to do this. The other nitpick was there's a shot that is so, look, said this movie looks, it does look nice-ish, like in just the quality terms, but I don't know why you would put this shot in. Because it's one of those drone shots that it's not even really doing anything. It's not establishing anything. It's just showing sort of passage of time. We really need to get more creative about how we want to show passage of time and not just jump to an automatic drone shot just because. But there's a drone shot that's slowed down to like 2 or 3 frames per second, and it just looks so bad. And I have no. This is part of the nitpick, but like it's actually not it's kind of a horrible thing, I think, to put in a movie. All right, let's go to the main things. I think I've called him Afam the virtuous man. I hated this character so much. I strongly dislike him because like I don't know what I dislike more than a holier than sort of, it's not like holier than thou character, like somebody that just, it's always just good and righteous and all of that, to the point like there's something you can be good, but there's to the point where you're being stupid, like very, very foolish. People have talked about, him paying all this money. I'm not going to go into that anymore. Anyway, I think some people have already mentioned, Mrs. C's mentioned the rules of apprenticeship not being properly established. Code didn't make sense. I said from Obum's perspective, like you should just tell all your colleagues what you're doing, the price you're doing it at, so that you don't have the situation that you have. From KOK's perspective, I don't actually even know what his point is, because he says he's fine with this, but he says as long as you're not chasing away the customer. But he wasn't chasing away the customer. Actually, what she said was that he had been selling her the 7K. So,
but she has another shop, she will not come back.
But isn't that the whole, like, Apricot by definition, if you put your price above anything, surely somebody else might just not be doing that, and then you might lose the customer. Yeah. But like my point is that it didn't seem like they were very good at establishing like rules and boundaries for these characters. All right. So the filmmaking in this, I think, it's actually, I've spoken about it in a few ways, but it's kind of disappointing, and in some places quite bad. The sound is not great. There's a lot of, sometimes, especially in that investigation room, when we go from one person speaking to the other, or sometimes when there's just silence, you can just hear the difference in the mic humming that one person's character is doing to the other. There's some bad ADR, and there's a point where there's just general filmmaking. The blocking in this was not good. It was very stage-like. There are people who, oh my God, there's a point where when Staninze comes to where Shogun Arinze come to arrest him, and his boys are in front of him, he literally walks across, greets his guys, and then goes back, then walks back like they're on a stage. I'm like, what is this blocking? This is silly. It looks so silly. But very early on, I knew I was not in good hands, cinematography wise. The cinematography in this is not good. Blocking in this is not good. I think Elizabeth said, but there are some shots that are just there for, and I'm going, why do we have this shot? There's some shots from low down looking up, but it just feels so purposeless, and it feels like the only point is to do a different kind of shot, but they don't work with the scene, and it's not even edited in properly. So much of this looks like, so much of the filmmaking just doesn't work. even one of the things that somebody talked about is loving the what's this Amaka. When we introduced Amaka, Amaka is walking in and she's in slow motion. But like I don't know, people forget the reason why love interest or the heartthrob walks in slow motion because it's supposed to be from the perspective of the guy who is looking at her. It's like, yo, this person's work and time has stopped, right? Or time has slowed down. That's the point of the slow motion thing. Why are we getting her walking in slow motion and then we cut to a shot of her dad? And like this guy is nowhere in sight at this point. It's like, do you not understand? You don't understand what you're doing with this. Oh my God. There's no part of this story that really works for me. Um, the closest thing to it was the apprenticeship thing, but they don't do like many people have said. It doesn't go in depth into any particular thing. Oh man, the editing in this is very bad. It's very bad. There's so many jarring continuity cuts that just take. Again, I said it does feel like a hug, but every time I want to like get into it, it's like a jarring cut. There's so many of it. It's just not put together. And I was waiting for this. I was like, who is the editor? Because usually I like to blame Victoria for this. Victoria is, I think, Victoria is like Anthill or Ingba. I can't remember which one of them she belongs to. But I was like, who is the editor behind it? And there are 4 editors behind this movie, of which Kayode is one of them. So I don't know who to put all of the blame in, including. I don't know who to put the blame on this editing. It's honestly, it's one of the worst editing we've seen this year. It is. It really is. Orisha is the only thing. Was Orisha this year? God, this year has been awful. Orisha is the only other this thing editing that is like I've been like, why does this keep on happening? So this isn't. It's not great. All right. Mike's not, I said, yeah, lapel mics are rubbing. I don't know. There's so many things. I actually have a really long list, but I'm both out of time. And honestly, I just want to, because almost everybody has touched about all the aspects of the story for me that doesn't work. I'm just interested in hearing all these people, that liked it, what the parts of the stories that worked for them. I guess, not everyone's going to be into the technical stuff. I can understand that. But I don't even know what parts of the story is particularly good because the apprenticeship thing is really shallow. The love is horrible, bad. And they don't care about any of the characters enough to develop some sort of nuance or make them feel like something. And maybe I would say with the exception of Odogu, but Odogu is like Odogu is maybe like a stereotypical paternal figure, and that's fine. But like nobody really has any sort of weight to them. Anyway, I'm interested in what this pushback section looks like. We can start with the pushback anyway. So
I have pushback. All right, what did I? Sorry, I made notes while you guys were talking. I can't remember where I put it. All right, yeah. So there was one comment that was read, but I thought it was obvious that the Danladi brother killed Paul. Because they ask Afam at the end of the call when he's telling them he doesn't have money for them anymore, and they say something like, "You know what this means, right?" So that felt like enough foreshadowing, I guess, to what's the end result ended up being. But that said, my main pushback is on the brotherhood between the two boys not being set up because I thought they did a good job setting them up. From the naivete with Paulo teasing Afam and calling him Johnny, showing him who to avoid and protecting him when he was being harassed, teaching him how to dress, teaching him how to sell. Plus, we see them spend the most time together amongst the boys. They're pretty much always together. They were almost always selling together on the street or even in the store. And so that felt like it was set up enough because they were pretty much tied at the hip the entire movie up till they're not. And then my final pushback is on timeline. I don't think the timeline was too confusing. I do think it could have been defined more, but Amaka comes in writing Jam, so about 16, and the boys are all around like 18 maybe. And so it doesn't feel that confusing that about 8 years or so passes by. But those that's mostly it. Oh, final pushback was on Amaka being accessible because that was funny for me because they all live in the same house. So I'm not sure how much more inaccessible she was supposed to be to them. But yeah.
Sorry, can I just add, if I have fine boys in my father's house, why will I look outside?
Like that's all I'm saying. Like they're all living in the same house every day, eating together, like and she's at the store all the time. I just don't know how she was supposed to be anymore. So was she supposed to move somewhere else or are they supposed to I don't really understand that.
I'm sorry. Let me introduce you, lovely ladies, to the concept of classism. And
yes, but then
you
Adogo
might
is
be
not
unfamiliar
Adogo
with
pretty
the
much is
concept.
pretty kind to all of them and treats all of them relatively like
Kind to them does not
so
mean
it
Wait,
they
doesn't
should
wait,
really
see.
seem like there's a
wait,
lot of
So
classism
also,
for
Otas,
him
these are
because
boys that
even
are
when
waiting to
after
collect
everything
meat
passes,
after
he's still the
daddy
one who
finished
says,
eating.
Okay,
marry my
sorry.
daughter.
and did
Oh,
you see
yeah,
Stanley's law schools? Hmm.
sorry. Again, classism. Also, Amaka
You're
was never very
applying
friendly with
classism
these
because you
guys.
expect a
I
rich
don't
person to be
I don't think
classist.
you guys noticed. I think you missed it. Amaka was not very friendly with these guys. Like even with Stan's character, like she would just walk past. There was one time she was fixing her hair in the mirror. He walked in and she didn't say anything. Those families where the kids are being trained to be super nice to the help, she would at least greet. Didn't say
He was
anything.
new
And then
then.
he greeted and she was like, and she left. She was at the
He was
table,
already
he walked
flirting with
in.
that guy
She didn't
then.
notice him. It doesn't matter. It's not whether or not she's
And he was
attracted to
very
him.
new. Like he
It's
was
whether
new
or not
then.
she acknowledges him on some sort of equal level. And from her mannerisms towards them and how she did not pay attention to them, it doesn't seem like she viewed them
But
on any
that's
sort
not
of equal.
true. She was
But she
paying
was dating
attention to
Paul.
Paulo. Exactly. She was already dating Paul.
She was
She did
dating
not
Paul, so
know
she
the
obviously
other
saw them
guy.
on
Like
some
he was
Yeah,
level.
brand
She
new
just
into
didn't
the
see
situation. Like he's
yeah.
just
start them
moving.
I
after like
thought
that
the
for that
point was,
period.
I thought the point was why would she date Paul?
Yeah.
I thought that was the point because like it didn't seem to. Anyway, all right. Uchenna. Oh, actually, Uchenna, is there a response? I want to say my quick one. Because people saying Alex Okubo, like I don't see. Oh, this is Alex Okubo plays villain roles. This is not unusual for him.
I
I don't
agree.
know. He does this all the time. Well, he's we watched that my amazing movie with Erica and all this thing where he was playing the governor, some important person's pimp or something, like where he brings the girls. Like he's been enjoying playing these characters where he's quite devious. He's been doing it. I actually don't think he to be honest, like they don't do the character well for him. So like there's not a lot he could have done. But I think there's a different version of this that I would have I can imagine a different version of this that I would have appreciated more. If he was a bit more cunning in the sense that way he was showing a side to Staninze that seemed really nice and warm, only to like sort of blackmail her, like something that gives texture. But he's just always sort of not nice to him. Like, but I don't know. This might just be the lines. But again, there's interpretation in how you could take these things. But like he's always aggressive. Again, for somebody who had his destiny in his hand for the most part. I don't think this was. I'm not saying this is a terrible Alex Okubo performance, but it's not out of the ordinary for me. That's all. All right. Uchenna, did you want to say something? You had your hand up.
Yeah, I have a very gentle pushback here. A lot of people have been talking about the timelines and whatnot. I agree that it's not completely clear how much time has passed, but we get a general idea. But the part that I don't really understand is people saying that it doesn't look like the 2000s or it's not period specific. Did I miss something? I don't think they indicated any year. So, I mean, I don't think we're supposed to be concerned about the year. We just know that this is happening. Something, the guy was a child, now he's older. I don't think it's important what year it happens in, and that adds more to the whole fable feeling of the thing. It's not meant to be um, a realistic recreation of any particular era. So I don't know. I just don't think that that's really a valid concern.
Okay, I hear you on that, and I kind of agree, but I feel like if I asked I feel like if I asked Kayode how much time had passed, he still wouldn't be able to tell me, right? Like so, like I think that's something you have to know. You don't have to show, you don't have to show everybody, but I think that's something you have to know because, like, essentially, we're passing standings there as a 22 or 23-year-old at some point, right? Because I don't know, is that I guess it's trying to. There's a fear of if we tell them what lines, then some things might seem more apparent. Well, that's why you should be honest and with your timeline. Be honest with yourself. If you have something that will not work with your timeline, you should try to fix that and not just, all right, if we don't tell them, they'll never figure it out. And I feel like that's what we do a lot. Is that, hey, if we don't put any particular if we don't make it, if we don't put any particular thing to this, then nobody can hold us to it. All right. Nollywood must change.
Um, so my own pushback is that you guys are saying Amaka is bad, didn't perform well. I think the script did a disservice to her because I just feel like she's okay for that role. Not the script didn't do too much for her, so she didn't do too much. I think it's just like, okay, just show up, come, ask, is everything okay? Go back inside. That's what the script tells her to do. So why are we judging her based on that bad script? And oh, I want to say something I've forgotten. I forgot to do nothing I wanted to say.
All right. Thank you. Well, it's nice of you to come out of the world and out of Amaka's wherever you were to visit us. I appreciate that. All right. Did you want to say something, Steve?
I just wanted to say something. Because I just remembered when Odogo was talking to Polo and, Afama and said, she's well brought up. I remembered she stole 1 million from him not too long ago.
It's just like, also, he was like, I keep my eyes on, I'm very watchful. I know
You're clearly not that watchful.
Like, my guy, go and
Polo was collecting your home.
I don't know
under your roof.
To be honest, I don't know how many people Amaka was giving it out to be honest. We only saw one.
I think Amaka kept it at home.
I don't know. All right. Anika, do you want to tell us any pushback?
Yes, I have. I forgot my pushback, then I remember again. So let me quickly say I have a lot of pushback. Okay. One. The idea that he's paying that 5 million. Now, I will say this. I will say that they didn't give enough, like the way they portrayed it, definitely gave space for people to think that there's no reason for him to be paying this. Like it gave space for people not to completely understand why. But I do think that there is an understandable reason why. The story that they were trying to go for was a story of friendship, right? And guilt. It's kind of like the Jacob and Esau story, right? Esau. Jacob and Esau story, right? He feels guilty. This is a man he loves. He loves this man. There's a story of love there, right? And he feels guilty that he took on, what's it called? He took on his destiny, right? And now this man is in trouble. And when he was in his lowest, this man helped him. And he's a nice man and he would do it. And he did it. The problem became that the guy became a villain out of nowhere. That writing, the way they wrote that guy's character was Atrocious. Atrocious. They went from, and I feel like maybe the writer was not the best writer to necessarily bring this out, but I think that's what they were going for. Now, with that said, I am the queen of literalism. I like to put things in real worship, right? But I don't do that as like a dig on the movie. I know what the movie is trying to get at something else, and it's never going to be like real life. I never hold a movie to that or any type of story to that. There's a saying, real life is stranger than fiction. They can't possibly answer every single question in a movie. They can't. That's too much of a. I just feel like the police thing is a premise. It is so obviously a premise, and we should know why it's so obviously a premise. It's because the man started telling the story of his life. This is something that we've seen in other movies and all, but it's such a common premise. So I'm not necessarily going to say it's a bad thing that it was unnecessary. Yes, maybe it wasn't necessary. Maybe a better way should have done it, but it's a premise, and I feel like we should maybe take that into account. That it's a premise. And there's a way of watching movies that you just realize that that's a premise. And the third thing is classism. Sure, classism is there, indeed. But you do know that ladies use poor boys for the pleasure. So, yes, they can fall in love. And I also want to push back against this idea that Afam is just a very nice guy. It is the framing of the movie that makes us feel like this guy is a very nice guy. The guy is not very nice. You guys are forgetting. He literally killed his friend. They literally said, you know the consequences of this, and his friend is dead. Wiping away the blackmailing and the possibility of the truth of that the son he cannot father coming out. There's a difference between framing. Don't get my parts between framing and what the actual writing is actually telling you. The actual writing, even if this is not what the writer wanted to write, what the writer actually wrote was that this guy is not a nice guy. Is not a nice guy. He can be devious. Again, he went after his friend's girlfriend. You guys saw that, right? He saw them together. And they took
But
them together.
the framing is the story.
Yeah.
The friend,
I think like wait, two things. Like number one, at least my issue with the framing of the story is they don't do it very well with the detective. When he comes to this guy's father's memorial thing, and he takes him on what grounds? You arrest somebody if you have we don't know what we
I
don't
get
know
that.
what
No,
evidence.
I'm not saying
Okay, but that,
I'm not saying
okay,
that's
but
not true.
that's so when we're critiquing that, that's what we're saying. So
I know.
I
I'm not saying that
think
that's
it's
not true.
fine.
I also think
All
it's
right, cool.
funny.
And then the other thing with him killing his Afam killing Polo. I think I don't think that's him killing. It's I don't have to save you. I remember
It's to be
this is
said.
Batman.
If you fully do something, knowing that the consequence, fully knowing there's a possibility that consequences will not happen, but you fully within rational something, know that that is a consequence of an action. In a court of law, that I'm so sorry that if we present that, that is beyond a reasonable doubt. You may not be the actual killer, you may not be, but you bear some sort of responsibility. I'm not saying
You would have to be doing something, or your inaction would have to be doing something that somebody would think is like it
and
has to
yes,
be
they
almost
said it. They said it. The
justifiable.
best way to say it, the best even proof of this is that they said, you know the consequences of this, right? And he's like, yeah. And he hands up.
No. That's not. I don't care about that. That's not the point. The point is that what you would have to is a reasonable expectation of somebody. Reasonable expectation. So, like, if
It's a reasonable
if
expectation, yes, but it's just because something is
it's
a
not a
reasonable
reasonable
expectation does
expectation
not
for
mean
him to pay 5 million or whatever
no,
it
it
is
5
is a
million
reasonable
monthly.
expectation,
a
but it
month.
does not mean that you do not bear like your action does not have a
It
consequence to the debt. It doesn't mean that. Both things can be true at the same time. that could mediate the judgment you get. Let's say you're supposed to get 5 years. They could take into consideration
Mr.
the
C is going
condition
to
and
die.
make it 2 years.
Mr. C is going to die unless you wire me $10 million right now. Mr. C is going to die if you don't wire me $10 million.
Because you're
Well,
not going to
I
kill
don't have.
Pussy.
Okay,
I will
I will be
personally
like, okay,
arrest
I
you,
don't have
first of all.
$10 million.
That
Well,
was a gap.
number two, but it's not the same thing because number one, he has always been paying that. When the man
So it
decides to
doesn't mean he has to
blackmail
keep paying
him,
it.
it is different. It's not the same condition. You're removing a lot of different conditions to say, oh, Mr. C,
No,
it's just random out of now. That's something. There's always proof that he's not going to
that's
get
what I
full
mean. It's
something,
like
but it's
the only
really
thing is like, is it
negligent.
reasonable? Is it a reasonable expectation for him to keep paying it? That's what I mean. Like, sure, I'm not saying like somebody might
It's
not
not
go,
a
oh, we need to
Don't
sue
know
you
but
whether
to
it's
you're
court.
reasonable
forgetting
or not. That's not
there is also something that asks him not to do it. He was blackmailed by the guy. He gets a certain, what's it called, benefit from the guy's death, which
Which is
means
a
he will not
crime.
stop being
Which is a
blackmailed,
crime.
which is
Which is a
okay,
crime.
but that does
No, it's a
not
crime.
absolve you of a consequence of his death. I'm not saying it's
Somebody does
good
a
or
crime
bad.
to
I'm not
you.
saying it's good or
Is it
bad,
a
but it
reasonable
doesn't absolve
expectation
you.
for you to keep
Then, if
paying?
that's
All
the
right. Okay.
case, again, we're talking about debt. We're talking about debt here.
I get you. Okay,
You
I
get
just
it?
want to let other people speak on this.
I have
Right?
a rebuttal for Yinkando. And it was about fuck, sorry. Argument has made me forget. I'll come back to it.
Vanessa,
To
you
be
have your hand
honest
up.
with you, today, me not got to move first up. But anyway, my own is not too much on Amaka. Sorry, not too much on Amaka, please.
But you are also in Amaka's armpit, I see.
No, I'm not in Amaka's armpit. I see this is the problem with you people. Again, maybe this is my pushback section in that you people are just not getting me. And you people are ascribing to me things that are not mine. I want you people to understand. I'm very much in the middle right here when it comes to certain things about Amaka and the romance and all the things, right? I'm very much in the middle here. I am fully in agreement that the romance was rubbish. I just said I'm not as strict as you people when it comes to him touching her face. How I took it was the last time he saw her, they shared a really deep, intense hug. If he could have stayed, he would have stayed with her. I just genuinely think that he just reached out to touch her face unconsciously because this is someone that he cared about for so long and he hadn't seen her in ages and he just wanted to study her face and see the way her face has changed and how she's grown and he just unconsciously reached out. Me, I'm not strict like you people, but you people are strict. I didn't mind it. That's what I said. Also, while I don't like Amaka's acting and I don't like the way the writers wrote the character, doesn't change the fact that my girl is not a hoe. Not too much of my girl. Please don't let your boyfriend stop you from finding your husband. And in defense of Afamefuna, don't let your friends stop you from finding your wife. All these things that people are doing, people are tightening the words to your chest.
You're,
I'm
you're,
just saying me, I'm in the
you're
middle. I'm not as
promoting
strict as
cheating.
you guys. Not too much on Amaka, please.
Vanessa, whether consciously or unconsciously, I just find the touching face very cringe and a bit disrespectful.
Again, you people are
Okay,
strict, is what I'm
I
saying. I'm not as strict as you people.
I would say on it because he hasn't seen her for a long time. He doesn't know anything about her. Okay, and later he looked at her to see if she was married. If he had started by checking her hand to see if she was
Why you go
married,
check her
and
hand first now? Why are people like this?
Yeah,
just to
we're
respect
This man
boundaries,
was
discounting
his
surprised by
time
excitement.
her
has gone.
presence.
Anything would have happened.
We're discounting excitement. He hasn't
See,
seen her in a
you
couple
can't
years.
be
Ah,
saying that
no,
you guys are
That's
nah.
too
strict.
You
much.
That's
people,
not me by your
please.
spirit.
You
Why
people,
can he
please,
not be excited
nah,
and
Why
want
can't
to
he be
please.
grab
excited to
her?
see
Like, I
someone
don't
he
Please,
had
we
deep
can't
understand.
be,
feelings
we
for
can't
so
be,
many
we be
years?
appreciating
Honestly,
this
ring
Guys are
thumbs
ready to
up.
break
ring
your
is a
back.
matter of secondary concern. No, ring is a matter of secondary concern. Let's be so for real.
Feminine, if we're allowing men touch us out of excitement
You are
now.
married. Me, I'm
Yeah,
not
but
married.
if
So
you
you
see someone you haven't seen for a while, like you do things unconsciously. You run up and jump
Oh,
unconsciously.
on
and he
them,
cannot
depending
touch
on
her
how close
hand.
you were. You grab
A
them, you
hug,
hold them,
stop,
Yeah,
stop
whatever.
stroking
Yeah.
my
yeah.
face and
And
my
her
hair,
hair was
my
in her
G.
face. Sorry.
I don't boys like
Her hair
that.
was in her face. He wanted to see her face. I don't know why they did not pack her hair inside bag. That's how
And then her kicking her. He wanted to see whether she was cream
And
that
then
day.
their heads to each other. Come on now. They should have made out while they were at it.
Sorry.
Let's beat each other with our tongues.
Breeze
That's
was
how we
just blowing
operate.
her hair anyway. He wanted to see the face of whom he was speaking to. And so he pushed back the hair. You should please.
You did not see the face before he came down from the car.
He didn't. Like this.
Everybody is on serious.
All right. Okay.
Anyways, I remember
Not
my
even,
pushback though. Sorry. It was
okay.
Oyinkan's police premise that it's been used in movies before. I don't think that anyone is questioning that it has been used in movies before. It just was pointless here because it didn't serve the story at all or serve anything really other than waste time.
Yeah.
You didn't hear. Yes, I'm just saying it's a premise, and premise is premise. But you didn't hear what I said when I said that. Yes, maybe it's indeed useless, but like it's a premise that they used.
But
And
premise is
I would go
bad.
with that.
That's the point. The general
Like
critique there is the
I'm
fact
not
that it's
saying
not a
like
premise.
this is my
It's
thing.
terrible.
The premise for me, the premise is like the least issue of it. Like you can have that premise. The premise is not the issue for me. You can have that premise. The issue for me is that I feel like the characterization that they were writing, that they wanted to write, they didn't exactly do it to the best of their abilities. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not even saying that people should not be critical of that. I'm just saying that there's a difference between necessarily a movie and like tropes of a movie and like real life and like asking 25,000 questions of a movie to answer you. And I don't think nobody will ever like a movie that just copies, that answers every single freaking questions that anybody can bring.
But
Nobody
the
will ever
police
like.
thing doesn't ask you any questions. It doesn't even cause any questions. Like the main problem with it is not that it brings up questions, it's that it's useless. So explaining that it's a premise or that it can't answer every question just seems like an unnecessary bottle. And no offense to you, because it doesn't really then rebut to anything that's actually being critiqued. It just feels like you're making another statement in addition as opposed to a pushback then.
I am
Yeah.
making a pushback. I am making a pushback because everybody was very strong upon like that as being like that is very wrong for like the very bad thing of the movie. But I just thought that like okay, this is a premise and like this is not necessarily the big issue of the movie. That was it. That is the
Okay.
pushback. Since
Okay.
you think I was that is the pushback.
All right. Okay. All right. Any other pushback? Nollywood must change. I didn't know the tribe chick has
Yeah,
a back to
my pushback.
something
My
she had.
pushback is that.
She can go next.
Okay, my pushback is that people saying Amaka is biracial. I think we kind of forget that the mother is not a dark-skinned person, and genetics. They could have a history of someone who is very light-skinned in their family, not all biracial people like that. So people look biracial and they are not biracial, kind of. And we should open our mind. We should be open-minded. Like things like that could happen. Yeah. And then
Leave Amaka's armpit in Jesus' name.
Sir.
Leave Amaka's armpit in Jesus' name.
You know what? I actually agree with Nollywood must change. There's a very high possibility that our grandparents who were not Nigerian.
Two
There's
enthusiasts.
black
Not
people,
necessarily there. Maybe they had a
guys.
white
There's been black
surrogate.
people
Like, let's
who've
just
given back to white
theorize a
Pop,
people.
bit
why
here.
Let's
has
stop.
Pop, why is our son mixed? He really should have been questioning this paternity. And the baby is also not this guy's child. Let's all be for
Maybe they
real. No
had
be
a white
polo
surrogate. Let's just theorize.
Somebody said that
I
Amaka is
told
not
you, you guys
Odogu's child. Amaka is not Odogu's child. Everybody should go back and do checks.
guys, there's a difference between genealogy and phenotype. Sometimes
Okay, wait,
the
hang on.
phenotype
Wait,
expresses
Genotype
very
and
different things.
phenotype.
what is light
before we
Okay,
skin?
go,
What is
before we
light
go,
skin?
there's a difference.
I
Once
hate
in a
this comment.
while,
This comment
research
makes no
genes
sense.
win. Okay.
All right. We do have guests here, so we'll try check. Is there anything you wanted to add? Anything you wanted to say? about any of the things you heard.
Yeah, first of all, hi everybody. I think the one thing I've kind of I'm noticing when it comes to Nollywood is we do prefer a more realistic movie. So I will start with that first. When it comes to Amafina, I think from what I'm hearing so far, it's a lot of cultural shock in a way. So when it comes to wild boy culture, you do like I was reading comments too. So you do have access to the kids. So you're not living in a different place. You're living under the same roof with your oga. So you do see the children every day. You do kind of eat together kind of situation. So they're not just watching what you do within the business. They're watching your character even in the home, how you're helping out, stuff like that. Another thing I want to notice that I want to talk about is when someone said it shouldn't be a problem that Polo was moved. When it comes to wild boy culture, it's and the way it's being run is just that you're supposed to spend like 7 or 10 years with your oga. You're supposed to learn everything within that time, and then by the time your 10 years or 7 years is expiring, you're given a shop and you're given money to start your own business, right? But within this movie, you're seeing that Paulo, who was there before Afam, is now being shortlisted, right? The time he thought, okay, it's his turn now, somebody else that hasn't stayed as long as he did is coming in and, being blessed and, being handed the money and the shop. So I think it's valid why Paulo is angry. And then, sorry, about the Amaka stuff, but I don't know about so many people here, but if you're Igbo, you do know that we do have a lot of like light-skinned people, like their parents may be dark as anything else, but the children may come out, light skin. I, for one, I'm that type of person. So that's just all I wanted to contribute. But it's been wonderful hearing everybody talk about this movie. Thank you.
All right, thanks, the tribe chick. Look, see how soft somebody's voice is. All of you miscreants. If I hear being like absolute miscreants. That's it.
Okay.
Got soft voice. All of you here.
I don't know why
All
people
right,
are
okay.
shocked. This is Mr. C's way when there's a new person. He will
Yeah,
welcome the person like
exactly.
sweet stuff. When you have
All of
now
you.
finished entering inside the
Look at
skin,
now.
he
Look
will
at
now do
the voice.
Exactly
Can't
what
you
I was
hear?
going
for
to
you.
say. It's because she's
It's,
new. The new one is always
look at it.
nice. Until now, you don't become new anymore. Now you're going to start
Let me
complaining.
let me admire
Isn't
it
that
before
what
you
men do
corrupt her.
about, like, they always say the old one, hey, it's too loud, it's too loud, it's too much complaint. Okay, go ahead.
Limited you today.
Go ahead. So,
All right. Does anybody have any other pushback or anything else they wanted to share?
I do have a small pushback, sorry. It was about, I think I made a comment about the friendship not being established well enough. And I think someone said it was established. I stand by the fact that it wasn't. Yeah, they were shown together quite a lot. They were colleagues. It's not unusual. If you show me around with my colleagues, we stay, we spend a lot of time together. We're not close at all. So I don't think that's enough for us to establish or to believe that they're actually close. So yeah, that's not enough. Also, on the comment of her being light skinned, she's not light skinned, she looks mixed race, so it's not the same. But yeah, I'm not gonna go further into that. Yeah.
But you don't typically teach your colleagues how to dress or protect them from being hurt or tell them who to avoid or teach them how to sell and make
He
money.
was new though.
That's not typically things you do with your colleague. That's typically things you do with someone who you have grown an affinity for.
He was new into the system. It makes sense for somebody to kind of like take him under his wing and teach him a little bit of stuff.
And then when you take someone under your wing as a mentor, isn't that typically how sort of a close bond and a brotherhood forms?
Not necessarily.
When
That
you
just means
spend all of that time mentoring them, and then you spend all of that time, the entire movie, he's only shown selling with Afamefuna literally the entire movie up to the fallout.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So I want to push back on just that one thing. It's him taking him under his wing, right? It wasn't just that they fell in together and they formed this friendship and he took him under his wing. Odogu literally assigned him to him. Odogu said, "This is my senior Nwa boy here. you show him the ropes.
Yeah, if he got a new
But
boy,
that's showing him the ropes
he would
of
have
the
probably
business.
done the same thing
That's
with
Exactly.
the
Showing
Adrian.
him the ropes,
business.
showing him the ropes was not just out of the goodness of his heart or just out of friendship,
No,
right?
but that's showing
It
him the
was
ropes of the
his
business.
task.
There was a lot more personal things that he showed him the ropes on that were way outside his task. He could have just shown him how to sell or shown him
Like what?
the
Like
market
what?
and who to avoid. But even teaching
Like
him
what?
how to dress is a personal thing that you don't just do just because you're showing your
Yes,
colleague the ropes.
so teaching him how to dress. Yes, that was their we were best friends montage, right? So they show us that yes, there is some friendship, but they don't spend any time establishing the depth of that bond that will warrant a 5 million naira a month ransom payout.
Why should I believe
There was no
5 million
depth to that friendship.
I'm not paying 5 million for my colleague who we banter about stuff. We talk about our lives, during work, and we relatively get along. I am not paying them 5 million.
I'm not paying 5 million a month for my
I think that
husband.
you guys are
A relationship
overlooking a
was.
regular colleague. This is not someone that you go into the office and see from 9 to 5.
Fair enough.
This is someone that you're seeing the entire time at work, showing the ropes, teaching him personal life, going back home, spending the rest of your day together, and then spending all this time at work. Why is the brotherhood so far-fetched? You're literally spending 24/7 together.
The friendship is not far-fetched, but the depth of the friendship is. That's what I want to say.
Okay. Tribe Chick, do you have is there anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think I think you're kind of so there's a difference here, right? So when you go to work, you finish at 5 and then you all go separately to your own houses. When it comes to the wild boy culture, you don't get to go to your own house. You all are living, and that's what they were trying to portray to us here is that they all lived in the same place. Literally, they had bunk beds. They all gisted together. They ate together. So you're not just talking about a situation of, oh, you just go to work and then everybody go to your own separate house. It's a situation of whatever they were dealing with, they've had the opportunity to talk about it. Why? Because they all lived in the same house, the same room, did the same things together. So yes, it's no longer just a bond of, oh, we are colleagues anymore. It's a situation of, oh, we were once colleagues and now we've actually built an actual relationship and friendship with each other. And that's what the one boy culture is about. So you're not living, you're not just going home. That's not what it is here.
And the final topping for that for me is that other than that, like we see them, I think when the movie starts in that bunk room, there's like 7 guys. But through the movie, it kind of boils down at the end of it to them only being the 2 like left from the original crew because Obom just disappears and everybody else just sort of disappears. But they're literally tied together for like 10 years of their life, roughly. I'm gonna say 10 years, but at least 6 or so years, maybe more.
My own thing is I know you can probably fill that in. I'm just saying the movie didn't show it.
Especially when they're trying something so big as 5 million a month. If you're going to show someone so committed to someone, then you need to actually invest me in that relationship. I don't want to infer that they were as close. You just keep telling me he's my best friend. I'm paying 5 million a month for him. Show me the depth of that relationship.
Everything you said, sorry, just to end it here. It's very, very superficial. You show me how to dress, you take me around. It's quite superficial. Mm-hmm. What is the deeper level? What's the emotional connection that you have? What conversation or what scene have I seen from this movie that made me see, oh, these guys are really close? That would make me believe, oh yeah, if this guy's in trouble, I'm paying 5 million a month. Or I feel so guilty, I'm paying 5 million a month. What scene or what depth have we seen that explains that it's not superficial, that's not I'm taking you around, I'm showing you how to dress, I'm talking to you, on a day-to-day basis, even for 10 years, maybe, I don't know, maybe over 10 years. But again, as you said, we shouldn't infer it. We should clearly have seen this in the movie. Yeah.
All right. Okay. I don't want to hear Naluma's change his voice. You still sound like it still sounds like you mean well. It still sounds like you mean well. No. I think we are good. Worth doing the summary now. Like we can pivot there. All right. So Atas, do you want to give us your summary?
Sure. In summary, I enjoyed this movie a lot, and I would watch it again. I liked a lot of the story, but I do think it either should have been two movies where one focuses entirely on the one boy and then, the friendship developing and all of that stuff. And even the love triangle, setting it up when they're teenagers, and maybe another story with them as adults. Where we see the rest of the things like Paul's character developing and all of that stuff. But it just did feel like they were trying to tell two separate stories without really connecting them together. Um but overall, I did enjoy the story. I enjoyed a lot of the acting. I do think the movie had some heart, and I did like how tender Afam was with Amaka as well. I do think that there was a little cute love story somewhere in there.
Okay, thanks, Otas. Vanessa, do you want to give us your summary?
Yes, I do. I liked this. This was an enjoyable watch. It was a good way to end Q1. Did the story lose itself towards the end of the second act and very much in the third act? Yes. But there were some solid performances, and all in all, a good watch. So yes, I would recommend people just watch it. It's, honestly, I mean, given what we've had this year, I might as well just recommend this, and I would watch it again. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Vanessa. Chinweke, do you want to give us your summary?
Okay, so I would say this is one of the better films that have been released. Although I think it was released last year, was it? But it's one of the better films we've had this year, especially on NFC. So, and it's a really commendable effort, right? Handles an important subject matter. Um, a lot of it had a lot of they had like so much room for improvement, like, and they could have done. They got a lot of things right, but I felt like they didn't focus on the basics, and they got a lot of the basics wrong. And that's really, I don't know. I don't know. I think maybe I would recommend it, but with a caveat also. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chinweke. Uchenna, do you want to give us your summary?
Yeah, I will echo that this is definitely the best thing we've seen in Q1. I had a lot of issues with the movie, but if anybody asked me whether they should watch it, I would unreservedly recommend it. I think it's a pleasant watch, and I commend Kayode Kasum for this effort. It's not easy for a Yoruba man to direct an Igbo movie, and I think he did a decent job with it. The only thing I would say is that just like with Breath of Life, when I watch it, I see a good film. I think it's a good film, but I see the bones of what could have been a great film, and that kind of frustrates me because so many storytelling opportunities were left on the table. But hey, we live and learn.
All right, thanks, Uchenna. Cynthia, please give us your summary.
Okay. I thought you were not going to call me. Anyways, I did not enjoy this movie. I thought it was boring. I struggled to finish it because of Film Club. In summary, I think the major issue I had with this movie was the idea of trying to give me an instructive lecture that I thought had issues with developing the characters. And yeah, I honestly thought it was boring. And because I struggled to finish it, I might recommend it and say it was boring to me, and see if you like it, because really it wasn't an apprenticeship story.
Okay, thanks, Cynthia. Ada, do you want to give us your summary?
Yeah, so I think the movie was okay. I'm not too strongly on either side. It's not great. It's not terrible. I think it's just okay. He has a few good things. I would recommend it, especially if it was to another Igbo person. But yeah, it's just averagely good.
Okay, thanks, Ada. Alana, do you want to give us your summary?
Yes, I loved the movie. I loved everything about the movie aside the casting of Amaka, who is white. I enjoyed the movie. I would recommend it. Like I mean, my sister doesn't watch Nollywood movies, and she watched this movie. So any movie that my sister would watch. Like, okay, she said it was height, but at least she watched it, which is saying a lot. And a lot of people, a lot of people have said positive things about it. It has brought up various conversations, and to me, any movie that can do such a thing has, to some extent, achieved what it's supposed to achieve. It doesn't. A lot of other things were just like technicalities and tiny things here and there. And contrary to a lot of what a lot of people said, my favorite part of the movie was Afam and what's her face, the white girl, Afam and the white girl's love story. I really, really enjoyed their interactions. And even though people did not like the second and third act, I liked it enough. So, yeah, that's it. I would recommend it for anybody over and over again, and I will go back to watch it after this.
All right. Thanks, Alana. Ankan, you want to give us your summary?
Oh, you remember my name? How nice. This movie is a okay movie, and it is definitely one of the best movies we've seen on this club this quarter. At least in the last 2 years in Nigerian cinema, I guess. Like I say, movies are for entertainment, enjoying yourself on a Sunday night or any night. You had a long day at work. You want to distress. You want to move into the world or do whatever. Put it on. Watch it for 30 minutes. Decide whether you like it or not. If you don't, change it. There are millions and millions of movies and TV shows and books and whatever in this world. Go to one of them. It's okay.
All right. Thanks, Anka. The Tribe Chick, do you want to give us your summary?
Yeah, I think this is a really good movie. I think it's been able to portray what it came to portray. I think it showed you the culture of one boy. I think it did a good job in showing you friendship. I think it did a good. I think overall, it's a very out movie. Yes, obviously, there's some stuff that can be changed. Oh, please, if there are any directors here, I need us. I need us to stop casting people that are not Nigerians or black because they're majority black in the country that we come from. But aside from that, yeah, it was a great movie.
All right. Thanks, The Tribe Chick. Nollywood must change.
Please don't correct something. No, Amaka is a Nigerian. No. She's mixed. She's a black person. Please. So would I say I would say this movie I'm disappointed because the way this movie was hyped since last year when it showed at Afri, the way it was hyped, I'm kind of disappointed. It's not like it's a bad movie compared to what Prime gave us this year. But more movie I would not mention. It's not as bad as that. But this movie is okay because I just feel like I didn't get connected with any of the characters. I wasn't connected with any of these characters, but I could enjoy it, to the end. Maybe because I wanted to talk on this space, but I didn't feel connected with any of the characters. So I won't say it's bad like that, but I would recommend it. I would actually recommend it for someone who wants to see something that's kind of cultural or, just want to see Stanze, you want to see Alex Cooper, yeah, it's not that bad. It's okay.
All right. Thank you. Nollywood must change. Just going to read a few summary. Do you have any summaries to read, Mrs. C?
I'm pretty sure.
All right. In the DMs.
Yeah.
All right. Halima says, my summary, I liked the film. It was a warm, feel-good film. Has its issues, but which movie doesn't?
I'm to search. I can't find the summaries.
In the DMs, I'm not talking about. You don't have to go through people's list.
Okay. One sec.
Okay,
you got it?
Yes.
Okay.
Overall, I thought it was a good film, and I was quite impressed. This Corey from Nollywood Ramblers. Overall, I thought it was a good film, and I was quite impressed. I think this shows we can make indigenous stories outside of world building law. Well, when we put our minds to it, my summary: if you want a film that has a nice story and a good look to it, watch this, but you might be mad at the end, though. All right.
Okay. I have Lily's summary. It says, in all, it was an okay watch, but man, if story is so dependent on time, then at least let us feel that we are at different times. Okay, my summary?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was an all right watch. I think the best way to enjoy it is if you know Tutinkam, or just, yeah, I think that's the best way to enjoy it. We've dealt with a lot worse in Q1. And I think there really was a story in there that could have been executed better.
Yeah, I actually want to be among and like it like you people, but there's nothing. I only KOK like does it for me. I don't like the characters. I don't like where the story went. I don't like the filmmaking. So I don't know. I don't know. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people like it, but there's too much in this that, again, felt like they could have been. They didn't have to be like this, but it is what it is. I'm glad that there's some people who have been able to connect. I do wonder how much of this is just being sort of fire hosed with a bunch of very god awful movies. And I probably do agree that this is the best of Q1. I think the filmmaking in The Green Fever was better. Though the story, I don't think so. But yeah, I wasn't hit with as many editing issues and oh man, yeah. A bad edit can ruin things, but yes, the performances, I guess, is probably carrying a lot of this film. Now, wow, you people said they give people some indigenous story. Anyway, understand. I do get it. Anyway, but thanks everyone. Thanks for the discussion. It was fun. We will be back next Sunday, maybe with Dead Husband X's. I don't know. I don't know. Dead Husband movies.
I just want to say that this Easter Sunday,
Haunted Man.
I am glad that this movie inspired a romance between Nollywood Much Change and the actress who plays Amaka. I'm just very glad to have witnessed it. Thank you, Nollywood Much Change. It was lovely. Easter is a great time. Spring is in the hair. Spring is in the hair.
That's why I used to meet you. That's why I used to meet you. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed listening and would like to join live, just follow us on Twitter at IrokoCritic and join us every Sunday, 6 p.m. West African time on our spaces.